I just had it in my head that I'm going to do this no matter what it took. It was just chipping away one class at a time, not looking how far away my goal was, but just taking it one step at a time. They say the only way to move a mountain is one rock at a time. So that's what I was doing. And when I was applying for fire departments, every time I got told no, I just refused to take that as an answer, and I applied somewhere else, and I applied somewhere else. And I actually was in the process with Vacaville, got almost to the end. I was in backgrounds, and they said, we're gonna go with somebody else. And they told me no. A couple of years later, I came back. They liked that I was persistent, and they gave me the opportunity. The only person who doesn't get hired with the fire department is the person who stops trying. So if you're lacking in the physical fitness category, just start working at it little by little, and before you know it, with a good diet and consistent exercise, you don't have to kill yourself and work yourself to death, but just doing a little bit every day and getting better a little bit every day, eventually you're gonna move that mountain and you'll be ready. And like I said, here in Vacaville, you don't have to be, a top level athlete. We will get you to where you need to be. So as long as you're trying, we're gonna help you and we'll get you right where you need to be.
No matter your age, if something comes to your mind and you want to do it, right? And you're thinking, should I try this out? I don't know if I should. You're not going to know unless you try. Yeah. I always try to tell people, keep going until you can't go anymore. And then when you keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, stop, take a little mental break, look in the mirror, say, why am I really doing this? And then keep pushing again. Because I think even in my short 9 years, I haven't worked a day in my life. I love my job, I love my career, I love my family, I love my work family. And it's something that you shouldn't shy away from.
Have a nice resume put together. Do it, professionally. Have somebody look at it, proofread it. When you come in for, the interview, dress nice, wear a suit, look professional. Show that you're motivated. Come visit us. Come visit our firehouses. Okay, that has always been a thing that we valued, is for candidates to come and actually visit the firehouses, meet the people that work here, and tell us about your experience.
Off of that is the other preparation is, don't get into any trouble. Like, that's really big. Do not get into any trouble because, background checks, making sure you have that clean record, because that's big. So don't get into no trouble.
The best advice I can give, if you're going to be interviewing for San Diego Fire, seek help from San Diego firefighters, because our interview process is very different. And if you don't seek help, the odds of passing an interview are very, very tough. Fire interviews are very challenging. For example, they may say, hey, tell me about yourself. Well, that's an education, training, experience question. So if you start answering the question by telling them about yourself, that's very difficult to score against the next person. Coupled with that interview preparation is just make yourself as valuable as possible. You're gonna have the minimum requirements, right? But you wanna try to grasp as many other things that will make you valuable also. And some things to talk about that's gonna set you apart in that interview process. For example, professional athlete is gonna set her apart because she can talk about all the experiences and how they relate to the fire service. Just things like that will make you a valuable candidate.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Cal-JAC presentation of Life of a Firefighter. My name is Condren. I am a fire captain with the San Jose Fire Department, and I am a member of the Cal-JAC Women's Commission.
And I am Liz Brown. I'm also a member of the Women's Commission, and I'm a battalion chief for Cal Fire down in San Bernardino County.
So for those of you who are joining us today who are not quite sure what you're in store for, this all came about because Cal-JAC is an amazing organization that is basically made up of firefighters, people from different departments, different unions, all looking to make you successful in your attempts to join this amazing career. So there are resources here through Cal-JAC that just basically are going to help you get ready for the physical test, get you ready for the written test, answer all of your questions. 2 times a year, Cal-JAC hosts an expo, both in Northern California, one in Northern California and one in Southern California. And at this expo, there's usually a live session, and it's called Life of a Firefighter, a Day in the Life. And we typically host that at these expos. And we wanted to give the opportunity for everyone at home who hasn't been able to attend an expo to get the same information. We're here to answer some questions, give you a general overview of the fire service. And so we're really excited for you all to join us today. To start things off, we're going to watch a pretty awesome video, and then we'll get right into it.
I think to be a good firefighter, you need to be dedicated.
Somebody that's driven, that's honest.
We're looking for people that are strong. We're looking for people that can learn.
Definitely need to have both physical and mental stamina.
Hard work, attitude, effort.
Being a team player, being collaborative in your thought process.
It's a job that you really kind of have to go with the flow. At times you have to be very flexible.
Professionalism is huge.
One has to obviously have some sort of compassion.
People who are very service-oriented. They want to be community servants. They want to make a difference.
90% of what we do is going out and dealing with the public on their worst day.
So I always come to every single call and arrive with a bright smile on my face, looking to assist in whatever way I can.
Why is this the greatest job in the world? Well, because you're not in an office every day.
You're walking into the same place, but you're walking into different situations every day.
Today's fire service is all risk mitigation.
Most of our calls are medical related.
As the first arriving crew, we're like bringing the emergency room to the patient.
We do respond to fires of all different types, from rubbish fires to vegetation fires, vehicle fires, structure fires.
There's also water rescue, hazmat events that could take place.
And then there's other calls like vehicle rescues, cliff rescues, trench rescues.
It's not law enforcement related. Oftentimes, we're the ones who are called to handle.
When we come on duty, we do a shift change, and the off-going crew pretty much just gives us a run-over of what they did during their time on duty, what calls they went on, stuff we may need to check over in the rig.
As the day begins after the meeting, we do our cleaning and maintenance of the apparatus and the firehouse.
We need to take care of our station, because if you have a nice station to live at, you're going to be a happy crew.
We need to sweep and clean bathrooms and kitchens.
Making sure that whatever we're doing in the station, we can drop it and be on that rig and ready to respond within a moment's notice.
We have a meeting every morning. It's called Lineup. I go over all the daily new staffing material that's required of them, and so that they have a plan, organization to their day.
Which includes training, could include some fire inspections or prevention.
We also provide our own meals, so members in the fire station are required to cook quite often.
We figure out who's cooking, and then we'll go shopping.
Some person will come up with a plan and everybody else will pitch in and help cook. We try to have some camaraderie too. That means that during lunch we play a game of cards while we're eating or something like that. We try to have fun, but it always comes after everything else.
Staying fit is part of a lifestyle for this job.
I've thrown my pile of gear that I wear without any specialty tools on the scale, and it came out to 70 pounds.
Every fire station has a gym in it.
We follow a physical fitness program that everyone should participate in.
I keep myself physically fit, and I expect the same from my firefighters. They all, every day, they work out, and I think overall it helps us perform the job safely and efficiently.
In addition to that, while we're here, we try to take care of each other, right? So hydration, nourishment, and also rest is very important.
There's a lot of sleepless nights. Usually we're up running nonstop, so we all sleep when we can.
We are paid, and it is our job to be ready at a moment's notice. And the only way you do that is to train.
Come to the fire station, we train every single day, sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours a day on any aspect you can imagine.
You never stop training, you never stop learning. There's an evolution when it comes to all the knowledge, equipment, technology. We have to stay up on top of it.
Reading the new material that's coming out, the new science that's going on with firefighting and flashovers and down to even medical stuff.
Certainly in the post 9/11 era, it's important that we're trained and adequately prepared to address hazards that are often not seen before.
As a group or a team, we get together and we train so that each person rises up to a level where we can be confident in all of our skills and abilities and perform efficiently.
The fire service being a paramilitary organization, meaning a rank system that involves you coming in at an entry level and having superiors that will guide you through the process of being and becoming a better firefighter.
You don't go all the way to the top if you got a problem. You work through your chain of command from your immediate supervisor on up.
You come in as a firefighter, EMT, or paramedic, and you can move up into the ranks through engineer, where you're operating the apparatus, pumping water at a scene. You can become a captain and you can supervise a crew. Then you move into the management ranks, battalion chief, assistant chief, deputy chief. But what's nice about the fire service is the diversity in your aspirations to do different things.
You have the variety. There's always a different challenge you can have, so you can go up and you can go out. You can go either way.
The fire service is a family, and it's an amazing family.
We train together, we live together, we work together, and our families grow up together.
It's like I have two lives. I have the life when I'm at the fire station and the life I have at home. So you have two families, basically.
Working with people that, are ultimately your best friends.
Especially in the hard times, we really support each other, and it's great.
There's always some kind of bond that comes out of every call. Some calls make you laugh, some make you cry together, but it's that whole team atmosphere that I love.
The fire service has been really the most rewarding career choice I could have made, because you get to see the difference you make.
You're helping people that, it's the worst thing that can possibly be happening to them, and you're there to mitigate that.
We see a lot of bad things. I always try to stay positive. The best thing you can do is just come on scene, do the best job you can every single time.
Obviously not every day do we get to save somebody's life, but over my career there have been those days, and there's nothing better than that.
We're doing a job, yet it doesn't seem like a job.
We're going to buildings that are on fire and working so hard, but it's so rewarding. It's the best job.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. Firefighting, we hope you have what it takes. We're going to get a little bit more into the introductions, just so you guys know why it is that Liz and I were selected to be here talking to you both. So like I said before, my name is Corey. I am a captain with San Jose Fire Department, but I didn't always know that I wanted to be a firefighter. So a little bit about my history. Grew up kind of all over the U.S., was always pretty athletic, went to college, got my degree in political science, really thought I wanted to get into law, government, and try to save the world through those means. And when I realized that I actually really enjoyed the back and forth with people. I'm a people person. I like interacting with people. I like engaging with people, and I like helping people. So I actually moved to California, and I was going to grad school when I randomly met some firefighters. I was bartending at night, and I met some firefighters, and like, hey, you should come do a ride along. So went to a ride along, didn't know what to expect, because I'm like, oh, firefighting, like, never crossed my mind. We got a call, and I remember just like, I stayed in the engine, but I remember looking outside and watching and just being like, they just help people. Like, it was the most amazing, eye-opening experience I've ever had, where I saw my calling, and I knew that I was looking for something, looking for a career where I got to help people and make the world a better place. I just didn't know that it was going to be firefighting until that moment. And So I enrolled in EMT school, then I went to paramedic school, and then I was able to get hired at San Jose. And I absolutely love the opportunity I have in the fire service to serve the community and serve this group of amazing people that I get to call coworkers and fire family. Once in the fire service, it was pretty awesome. Lots of other opportunities I never even thought of, I was exposed to. So once in, start working with recruitment, training. For those of you who aren't aware, most firefighters out there are union members. So we are a blue collar worker organization. So we do have unions. So I got involved in our union and the political side because it's what I got my education in. I ended up getting my master's degree in public policy. So I'm able to use my education now for firefighters, specifically with union work. So I was able to work in my local union for San Jose. I also do, work at a federal level. I sit on a commission for women in the fire service, as well as I sit on a federal council for EMS. EMS is a huge part of what we do in the fire service, and I have a strong passion for serving our residents and our citizens through medical as well. So I've had all these wonderful opportunities, but that's also kind of why I'm sitting in this seat with my lovely Liz here to talk to you all about whether or not the fire service is right for you, and just kind of showing you guys that you don't have to have one specific career path to get to where you are. So, Liz?
I can't follow that. I can't follow that. What am I going to do?
Lies.
Oh, my
You're
goodness.
You're going to hear her resume and you're going to be like,
No. I love this woman. And when she came on the commission, she was super bubbly. And I'm like, oh, God, great. and turned out, annoyingly enough, she's lovely. She's everything that you would want in a commissioner, a friend, an ally, and another female in the fire service. So I love giving her the business.
Yes.
We were told we probably shouldn't cuss, so we're going to do our best not to.
We're going to try.
We're going to try. But my name is Liz Brown. I am a battalion chief for Cal Fire. I've been in the fire service over 30 years. I started right out of high school, actually. I took my EMT in high school. I wanted to be a doctor, and they came around and offered this class as a vocational opportunity, free if you're in high school. So I'm like, oh, okay, I want to learn some medical terminology. So I did, took it. And we did a ride along, and I knew nothing about the fire service. Back in those days, super late 80s, early 90s, there wasn't a lot of those recruitment programs at all. So seeing a female in the fire service was not something that I would ever have experienced. So part of the class was doing a ride along. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is. I got dropped off at a fire station by my mom, and I'm 17 and a half years old and around all these, senior firemen with these handlebar mustaches. They were lovely, super welcoming. The tones go off, and they're like, let's go. And I'm like, okay. So I get on this fire engine. We're going down the road. The sirens are going, the lights are going. My eyes are this big, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And we're going to people's homes, and we're helping them like a doctor would in the field. And it just was, this light bulb went off, and I knew that is what I was going to do. And I've never done anything else since. So once I had that awakening and my calling, that was my aha moment. And I love looking at you when you had your aha moment, because anybody you talk to that's been in the fire service, when they have their aha moment, their eyes may get big and they get giddy about talking about it. So I just love when that happens. So I had mine. I joined the Explorer program, and then I became a reserve for the city that I lived in, and then eventually went to Fire Academy and did that whole piece. And then I got on with my current department, Cal Fire. I went to paramedic school. I've been a licensed paramedic for 24 years. I've been with my department that long. And through that, just like Corey said, in the fire service, you never just do one thing. You always end up doing multiple things. And I became a union officer. I had this calling, and I had a great job, and I loved it. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, there's extra things I could do to have a say and help the fire service out, because I cared about it so much. And that's where I really found a huge passion for labor in protecting firefighters and making our working conditions better, and not letting legislators tell us how we can better serve the community. So that resonated with me, became a union officer. I teach nationally labor classes. I'm on this women's commission, which was a great opportunity to interact with young people, not just women, and give them the values that I learned as a firefighter. And then when they're successful in their field, then they pay it forward. And so right now, I just finished my bachelor's degree, and I just started law school. So that's a new adventure for me. And I'm looking forward to having this session. We do this as part of our expo, and so now to do it on camera is a little different.
It's fun.
Yeah,
It's different.
it is different. But I will say, so there was one person else who was supposed to be here, Adrienne Sims, San Francisco Fire Department. She got super sick and wasn't able to make it. So we want to do a little shout out to her. We love her. We miss our girl, but we just hope she's feeling better. So I just want to make sure that we give her her proper due.
That's right.
Yeah.
Props.
So just so we have a little, you guys understand where we're going to go with this. This outline is going to follow what we do at the Career Expo. So what we're going to cover are different topics relating to the fire service, a good fit, what you need to accomplish, all the things that we do at the expo, we're bringing to you. So you have an idea of things that will work for you, or things you're already doing, or maybe something you didn't think about. And with each of those topics, we already have some questions, but we really encourage you to have to write in to us any questions that you have that maybe we didn't cover, or something that came up from something we said. So the benefit is, as much interaction as you want to give us, we're going to give it right back. And that's how we do it in an in-person. So we want this as in-person as possible.
So let's jump right into it.
Yes.
So for those of you that are new and you're considering a career in the fire service, a little bit about the history of the fire service. So we're just going to kind of breeze through these things so we can make sure that we get to your questions. But the fire service, traditionally, it was a profession where people from the military, from the trades, people that worked with their hands, this was just a natural progression after their military service. They were looking for something more. There's a saying that the fire service is basically 50 careers in one. You know a little bit about building construction, plumbing, electrical work, infrastructure, construction, like you just kind of learn a little bit about everything because you just never know what call you're going to go on. So people from the trades, military, it just seems like a really natural progression for them to go into another type of government work that is municipality, city, county, state government work, which is what firefighting is. So, but now that's obviously changing. People are coming into the fire service that haven't gone those traditional routes, and it's making the fire departments more diverse and more rich and just more inclusive, all in general.
Yeah, and as far as some of the things like history of the fire service, as you're getting into this profession, you're going to network, you're going to meet people, but as you start developing, having an understanding of what you're getting into, why are you getting into the fire service? What is it that you think you know about it, and where are its origins? And unless you're in a fire academy or you're taking those fire classes, that may not be something that you always know about. As an example, fire service started with insurance companies. They would hire fire companies for profit, and this is turn of the century, and they would go to fires if that particular house had a marker that was from an insurance company. And then it evolved, and that didn't work because for profit wasn't a good idea. So as a fire service as well, then it became this more governmental, regulated, we're here as a foundational safeguard for the community, and it's evolved from that. And so when we look at over the years of the fire service, it really has been about bringing that integrity, morals, and values to the fire service and enriching it. And we build on people before us. So the foundation they laid, we build on that. And over the decades, it's just become a very strong house. So as you endeavor this, there is a high expectation, but there should be. When you're talking about people's lives, when you're talking about going in and assisting someone on the worst day of their life, there should be a high expectation. And that's what we're here to talk about, is to help you get to that high expectation, because it can be very overwhelming. When you hear about resumes and we're a jack of all trades and 50 jobs in one, well, that's not necessarily something that you are going to have to know the first day. We learn everything on the job. So if I'm working with Corey and I'm a firefighter and she's a captain, then what's going to happen is she's going to teach me, or I'm going to teach her because she has experience, and then I learn from her. So really, it's like oral traditions and skills passed down from one generation of firefighters to the next. And that's what makes it so incredible, and why we're so protective on keeping that, because it is on-the-job training. But as you prepare you're getting those fundamental life skills. So when you show up, it's not completely foreign. And now we're like, okay, now we're going to get you even better now that you have the foundation set. So that's part of the history of the fire service and why it is difficult and why people seek it out. Because if something's great, then you're going to want to bring your best to the table, and that's what the fire service demands. On an incident, we can't just say, oh, I'm having a medium day, so I'm sorry I can't run into the building and save you. Like, that is not an option. So you always have to operate at your best, and it is tough. But you know, if something isn't hard, then it's not worth earning, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. The history of the fire service, it's one of those things where it has, like Liz was saying, it's continued to grow. So whereas they started with the insurance companies, fire protection, you know, obviously fire prevention, fire protection systems have just gotten better and better through the years, and then EMS was added. So once it became more of a government agency, kind of, you know, less for-profit, and it was realized it was a service provided to the taxpayers, to the citizens, they started incorporating just more services. So that's where EMS came in. In the 90s, right, paramedics started really kind of joining a lot of the fire departments responding to all the 911 calls as well as for car accidents, fire. You know, it's not just like when people are like, oh, you're a firefighter, so you just fight fire. It's so much more than that. And that, I think that you can see the progression of the fire service just by adding on little services that the, you know, that the residents of your great city, county, your state deserve, you know, through their taxes. So.
Yeah, 100%. And in that, you know, one of my founding philosophies is that our diversity is what makes us great. If we had everyone that was just a certain way or certain type, well, that's not very diverse, because you need someone that's good here and good this and good that, and you bring that team together, and that's what makes a strong team. And that's why diversity is critical in the fire service, and diversity is critical in being representative of the community. Are we able to respond to calls and have people comforted because someone that is coming to save their life looks like them, or is representing the community, or even lives in their community? That is such a critical part of what our job is. We're in the job of people, and having a passion to serve people, having the ability to have empathy, to be selfless. Those are some of the founding criteria that is critical to have in the fire service, and what I certainly look for when I've been involved in recruitment and going to fire academies and talking to a younger workforce. I want to see what they believe of the fire service and their morals and values, and they align. So we're going to move over into chain of command. Mm-hmm. And when we give this talk at the expo, it really is related to not having a lot of knowledge. Like, we're going to assume you don't know anything about the fire service, and we're going to walk you through that. And for those of you watching that maybe have some you know, knowledge of the fire service, no problem. Put in your questions and let us know so we can make sure we get that more advanced answer. But we always teach this from a standpoint of someone coming in off the street, and we're going to give you a rundown of the fire service so you can make that decision that, yes, I'm still interested, I still want to know more, and then we pursue you to an expo, we meet you, and then you're able to ask even more questions. So it's that progression. So when we talk of the fire service, chain of command, and in the fire service, everything is hierarchical. So it's not just the world is flat and a fire engine shows up and everyone has the exact same say. Yeah. That wouldn't go very well.
Emergency situations are very, very fast. Like they train you so that there is the hierarchy comes into play where you just don't even think about it. Mm-hmm. You just know who your supervisor is. You know what you're supposed to be doing, and it's a very what we call paramilitaristic organization, where we're able to follow the command of someone who has more experience and time.
Yeah, and that's usually how it is, right? So the company is usually made up of a captain, an engineer who drives the fire engine, and a firefighter, whether it's medic or non-paramedic. That just depends on the department. So everyone has their lane, right? So firefighter has this lane, these are his job responsibilities, an engineer has this job responsibility, and then a captain as the shift supervisor has, or the crew supervisor has this responsibility. And everyone brings something to the table of their job responsibilities, and they all have their functions. So when you're on an incident, they already know their role, their responsibility, and it just becomes seamless because everyone is trained over and over and over again. So it is seamless, because when you show up to a call, that's not the time to figure out if you guys are a good crew.
Yeah, and that's actually been the most interesting thing to me. So I just recently promoted to captain. So I've been a firefighter paramedic for the last 10 years. And now as a captain, I am learning a new role. So I have been responding to fires, car accidents, and EMS calls the same way for 10 years. I knew my role, I know my responsibility, I know I'm the patient person, I know I'm the person on the cutters, I know I'm the person sounding the roof, I know I'm the hose. Like, I knew what my role was. They train you for your position. And so now the interesting thing for me is, as a new captain, I'm approaching every call in an extremely different way. But that's also for growth and for learning and career progression. I love it. It's, you know, me.
So do you feel as nervous as you were as a rookie?
Yes.
In the new role? Like,
yeah, I mean,
like I have the knowledge, but I'm nervous because I haven't done this in this role.
But the best thing about the fire service is that there's, like, when I was new, when I was a rookie, like, I didn't know my crew. Now I am so grateful for my, like, having a good engineer, like a good safety, like, because my engineer is my safety officer. Like, when we have a call on a freeway, they're that person. They're sitting there. They're like putting the cones out, head on a swivel. I'm watching my guys. You know, whether it's fighting fire from the side of a freeway or an EMS call or a car accident, whatever it is. And I'm so grateful to have those relationships with my crew, and they support me as a new captain.
Well, they have a vested interest too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do. But,
happy boss, happy life.
Yeah, exactly. But it's different. But I am still very nervous, because I'm like, oh, it's new role again, you know.
100%.
But I love it though. I do think that one thing that the fire service is good at is having that opportunity to grow.
And be new again, but still be seasoned.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, for people, I mean, I think the fire service, a lot of people that go into the fire service, they might, be type A, they're interested in a lot of things. It's hard to sit still. We're not meant to be in an office. You know, things like that, right? So I think having, all of a sudden, being given a new opportunity in the fire service to do things differently and grow is just what people like us need. Yeah. People that get bored easily, I think. Yeah.
So I'm a battalion chief now, right? So my role's different. I'm no longer on a fire engine, which I completely miss. I miss my crew. I miss the jokes. I miss the camaraderie. I do. Now I'm in a lonely truck by myself, you know? And there was a comedian that did this, like, oh, I want to be in the fire SUV, because they pull up and say, there's a fire. And I'm like, man, he's not that far off. But, you know, it's a bit extreme. I do very many important things. But
it's also nice for me, like, my battalion chief, like, I look to them for advice, because they've been in my position before, right? They were a captain before they were a chief.
Correct.
And so it's like,
I'm not there to intervene. Yes. I mean, I'm there to run the call, because I don't go to every call. I go to high dollar calls. So it's a TC with extrication, it's a structure fire, commercial fire, wildland fire. You know, I go to these type of calls. So I don't go to every call. So I miss my guys and my guys and girls and, you know, my peeps. And so when I go to a call now, I'm so excited to go, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, oh, we got it. I'm like, I'm staying. I'm staying, because I will have part of this camaraderie. So I think, you know, as we evolve in the fire service, and what you'll find is that level of fun and vitality and camaraderie. And that's the only thing I necessarily miss. You know, after years and years and years of calls, you do, you know, you're like, okay, I've run that call before. But the people is truly what I miss, and that's all part of that chain of command of being able. Everyone has their roles, so I may tease the captain or I might tease the firefighter, but everyone knows their role, and there's always respect and there's always authority. So at the end of the day, no matter what role you have, you just have to appreciate and work within the confines of the fire service, that everyone has their role. I'm a battalion chief. I would never disrespect a captain. They'd never disrespect me. Everyone has their hierarchy. And you may come in with a PhD in the universe.
Right.
In the fire service, that matters to a point.
Right.
That matters to a point, because you're still here to earn the trust of your coworkers. And trust is earned, and respect is given, but trust is earned. And that just takes time and consistency. And the less you say and the more you do will build that trust faster. So coming into the fire service, I think people struggle a lot with not understanding that, or not having that cultural mindset of how the hierarchy of the fire service is.
Yeah, I think I mean, especially you look at different careers that are out there right now. You go in, I'm hired for this specific job, and you do that job. But we're so team oriented. But I think the cool thing about the fire service is that as the new rookie, as the new probie, everyone that's on your crew has been in that exact same position. And so I, as a captain, right, when I see a new firefighter, paramedic, or a probie, I've been in that position before. I understand the nerves. I understand, hey, let's go train. Hey, let's go do something. I think that's the great thing about the fire service, because it's like, I think other careers, you don't necessarily get that interaction. You don't get the support. And I think that's why we call it kind of a fire family, because as much as you are the new person, and we have rank and file, because, you know, when it gets intense, when you're first in on that structure fire and you're going to go do whatever your task is, knowing that I have people that have my back, knowing that I have that support, knowing that there is that team mentality, even though there is a hierarchy, I think that that's unique to the fire service.
It is, and to tag on to that point, I think that's an important distinction to make, because when you are working in that team environment, no one there is gonna let you fail, right? So it's not like you're part of this team and their only job is to make sure you don't succeed. That's the opposite of what the fire service truly is. And what you bring to the fire service is what you're gonna get out of it, right? And if you come with an eagerness to learn and a passion to serve, and you have empathy, and you can treat everybody with respect, not just citizens, but you actually treat your coworkers with dignity and respect, you're going to have a great fire service career. But all those great components is what prepares you for the hard, and the hard is the physical. The hard is getting up 5 times after midnight when you've have no sleep, and the hard is being on a fire line for hours on end, being on a structure fire, doing overhaul of a house that has 5 garages full of stuff, right? And you have to pull it all out. So that's the hard. And in those hard moments, there's nothing better than being with your crew and you're exhausted and starving and you just want to get through it. And then you just look over and you guys laugh about something and you're like, okay, we're good. There's not a lot of jobs where you can have that kind of interpersonal relationship and just feel valued.
Well, that's the perfect segue to our next little section, which is this the right career for you? And I think that this is a really important question to ask people, because I think I've never seen them, but like Chicago Fire, or I've never watched those TV shows before.
I can't even.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's like, if that's what people think that the fire, I don't know. I mean, it's I mean, our jobs can be dramatic. Yeah. But the Hollywood version, like you need to understand the hard parts to understand if this is going to be the right career for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we do actually have some questions already coming in about the career in particular. So like the biggest thing for me, like when I thought about the fire service, I knew I wanted to help people. I knew that I wanted a life of service. I knew I liked getting in there. I love being a paramedic. I've been a paramedic for 14 years now, and I like being the person that goes in and makes that difference.
It's like a puzzle piece, I will tell you.
Oh yeah.
What I liked about because everyone's like, I don't want to be a medic, but honestly, it gave me a lot of confidence.
Yes.
Because you're going in and you're bringing calm to a sense of chaos. That's your job as the paramedic. And your captain is a safety officer, and the engineer's helping you out. But at the end of the day, the paramedic is the one commanding and making the decisions.
But I think I was really intimidated. I think you take that career aptitude test and you're like, oh, am I supposed to I should go into healthcare, I should be a doctor. Oh no, people's lives in my hands. Like, I think it was really intimidating until you actually go to school and they break it down for you so well. They're like, okay, hey, if it's chest pain, if this, then this, if this, right? If it's too fast, too slow, too wide, too narrow, and they really break it down so it's manageable. I know a lot of people that aren't necessarily, they don't love school, but they're some of the best paramedics I know, because the way, the fire service as well, fire academy, it can be overwhelming and intimidating, but they break it down so well that there's really, they don't want you to fail, and they make it so that it's very difficult to fail if you put the time and effort into it.
Yeah, time and effort, and I think that's critical distinction. What you invest is what you're going to get your rate of return.
Very much so.
And I do agree with that. I do think that, we teach paramedicine, fire service. But at the end of the day, if you have a passion for it, it's not, you're gonna wanna learn it, right? I remember being in high school, I'm like, I don't wanna take that class. And then all of a sudden when I got into the fire academy, I had to do my prerequisites. I couldn't get enough fire classes. So it's really finding that passion. And if you have a passion, then you never work a day in your life, right?
Right, but you have to be the realities of the job. Depending on what department you choose to work for or get hired by, a large majority of those calls will be EMS calls. So you do have to have the reality. It isn't all running into burning buildings, you know, and saving lives. It's there is a good portion of the job that is EMS. So going to EMT school, going to paramedic school, you know, those are important aspects of the job, because that is a huge percentage. I think a lot of people who get unhappy with the career or may not enjoy it as much didn't have that understanding going into it, right? So they think it's all pulling hoses into burning buildings. But I do think understanding that EMS is a huge portion of the fire service. I think you need to understand that going into it. I think that's
I agree. 90% of your calls are going to be EMS calls, and 10% are going to be fires or other calls.
Right.
So we're going to answer. We're going to weave in a couple of questions
I like it.
from people that wrote these in ahead of time. So is 43 to 45 years too old to start a career in the fire service? Is there an age limit?
So I would say, so my department, you have to retire when you're 70. so there isn't an age limit to start. So I work for San Jose Fire. We're a really busy department. We run over 120,000 calls a year. We actually burn a lot, so we have a lot of fires. So funny story, we actually have this guy in the department who used to work for a slightly slower department, a little smaller. He did a full career there. He did 25 years there, and he actually retired, and he wanted to come over. So he came over at 55 years old. He came over to our fire department, and he did 10 years with us. And he said, you know, you ask him about it, and he's like, oh man, I went to more fires, and I had more fun, you know. It's just, there isn't an age limit, but this job is inherently physical. So you need to be able to pass an academy. Being 42, 43, like 45,
40's
55.
the new 30. Everybody knows
100% is the new 30.
100%.
And honestly, I actually appreciate a lot of our older candidates because you have life experience. You have, like Liz was talking about, the empathy that you need on our EMS calls, the cognitive thinking, your ability to problem solve. You know, a lot.
Those are high dollar value items in the fire service.
They are. We're given a complex issue and we're expected to solve it. It's the citizen calls 911 and we're like, you know, and so we're expected to solve it. So I appreciate older candidates, and I wish more older candidates would look at this profession. I would say it's not too old to start in the career, but a reality of being an older candidate coming into this career is that because we work in a pension system, you may or may not have the opportunity to reach your full potential for your retirement, and that is something to consider. But that's really the only downside I can even.
And I think your drive, you're you know, because it is physical, and even being an older candidate, if you're the rookie, you're going to be expected to do rookie things, and
so
that is
ego. You're gonna have to lose you're gonna have to.
I mean, but what's nice is we do have value for people that have work experience or you know, have done things, worked in trades, all these different things is what you bring to the table, and that's the fire service. There is no bad experience because it's all experience. But yeah, no, we don't. Cal Fire, we do not have an age limit for hiring. Most departments, I believe, got rid of it, and I don't even know if I don't know if setting an age limit to apply is legal anymore.
Yeah, I knew of like one department that did it, but they got rid of it.
Yeah, they got rid of it. So I want to say it might be a law change, but so no, it's not. It's really based on your drive and your physicality, what you're willing to put your body through, and it is a sacrifice. I always say this for the fire service. It takes a village to raise a firefighter, because in the fire service, you're gone for 24 hours at a time, sometimes 48, sometimes 72. It just depends on what you got going on. So you have to have a strong support system, whether it's a spouse, partner, family, whatever. It does take a village to raise a firefighter, because there will be times that you can't come home and say, you know, your family's at home and you have a pipe break in your house. You can't leave the firehouse. You got to deal with it. And so it really becomes having all those balances in place. It's like being in the military. You're gone. So how is a family able to survive and be okay with your absence, and that is just something you really have to internalize with your family, and it does take a family decision because it does have a level of selfishness attached to it.
Yeah, and if you're older, I mean, that is something you have to consider.
Yeah.
If you have a family, are they going to be able to support you through the academy, through probation, through the
Right.
long shifts, getting
Yes.
deployed? We live in California, there's wildfires.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So to answer your question, no, there is no age limit. It's fine. That is such an individual question for yourself.
Yes.
Fire service is telling you absolutely, you can absolutely do it. You just have to ask yourself, are you capable and willing to put in the time and effort to do it? So,
boom.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Have you ever been rejected from a fire department? And if so, what did you do to overcome this? Rejected is difficult for me because there are many job interviews I did not get hired, so I was technically rejected. Their loss, just saying.
100%
100% their loss.
Look at you
yeah,
now.
look at you. Look at you now. But, you know, there are candidates who are not successful
Right.
during probation.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to do some internalization about why you weren't successful. Was it not a good cultural fit? Were you having some strength issues and you couldn't get through the probationary tests? Or is there some personality? Every fire department has a personality.
Yeah.
And you have to find your tribe. And so as you start getting involved in the fire service, and if it's something you really want to do, you'll start talking to people and get a feel for departments. A lot of people will have a dream department, and sometimes it doesn't end up being their dream department. Maybe it's being part of a large department. Maybe it's being part of a small department. It really just depends on, do you like a small hometown feel where you know everybody, or do you like the anonymity of being in a bigger department so you can go to do all these cool different programs because they have such a big, expansive, robust fire operation. So again, I would say, if you've been rejected, it's not a deal breaker, because right now there is a great time to be hired in the fire service because we have such a need to hire in the fire service. So if you're not successful at one department, you absolutely can thrive at another one. It just depends on you and how you recover for it. I always believe there's no such thing as failure. You fail is when you don't get up again. So there is no failure. It's a learning experience. Okay, I wasn't successful. What can I learn from it, and how can I be better? If you look at all of the professional athletes or just high-functioning, successful people, they value any type of rejection or failure because then it motivates, empowers them to be better and improve upon yourself. So, yeah, yes, a lot of people have. We've hired people that have gotten fired from other departments.
Well, and I think about it from a slightly different perspective. So it's like rejected from a fire department. Like, to get hired with the fire service, right, you have to take the written test, you take the physical test, and you go through a background. So the biggest advice I could give for everyone out there that is considering a career in the fire service, with this background, they do a criminal check, they do a driving history check. So being rejected, if it's been something because you have something legally in your past, it doesn't mean it's insurmountable, but it does mean that you might have a slightly harder time, or you might have to explain yourself more.
Or go through a process to maybe correct it. Or,
exactly, right? You're going to have to answer those questions. And then, it goes back to preparation. So if you are rejected, because I think about people that go through our process in San Jose, and people who come in not in shape, means that they didn't prepare appropriately, then they may fail the academy, right? If you get rejected from a fire department because your interview preparation skills aren't where the interview is where you sell yourself. It's 100% the thing you should be practicing the most outside of, you take the written test and you take the CPAT and you get your CPAT card. So you have both of those things, but guess what? Everyone else that's applying for the job at the department, your dream department, they all have those things too. So where you set yourself apart is the interview. So if you don't get a job, you got to ask yourself, well, did I do interview prep appropriately? Like, was I answering the questions? Was I giving enough of my personality to show them why they should hire me? So besides having like a clean background and doing all the things you need to do, getting rejected is basically physical preparation. If you come in shape, they're not going to have a reason to physically cut you. If you sell yourself in the interviews, then that's the reason why they want you, right? So, and then like Liz is saying, like if you're on probation and you get cut, then it's like, well, is it because I can't follow command? Like that's more of an internal question is, why? So, but I do feel like if you keep your nose clean, you prepare physically, and you put in the effort to do the interview prep, and you're a personable person, you're great in a team dynamic, you're gonna be successful. Like, and I feel like that is most people.
Yeah, and I think it's important, you know, all these things, it's, in the fire service, you have to bring something to the table. What are you bringing to the table? It's not the team's responsibility to make sure you're successful. The team will let you fail, but it's your job to help the team be successful. So it's a different mindset, right? You don't come in like, okay, well, you didn't show me that, you need this. Well, no, there's a lot of personal responsibility in the fire service because we're all personally responsible for each other. And so in order to have that team dynamic and to make sure that you are being everything you can for your craft, your profession, it's making sure you're physically fit, making sure you know what the qualifications of your job are. Do you have the skills to continue? You know, do you follow chain of command? Or do you listen? Listening skills. Do you follow direction? Do you follow through? Everything in the fire service, like and I did a video about this. You know, can you imagine a fire service where we didn't follow through?
Oh yeah.
Like, hey, you know, we tried to get her out of the car, couldn't do it, so we're just gonna go.
Yeah.
Like, no, there is none of that. So that's where you start, you know, developing and realizing that there is never a rejection. You know, you weren't successful this time. So what do I need to do to be successful? And if you can nail down that mindset, then you will get into the fire service because that is exactly what the fire service is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm excited for these. I see there's like 2 or 3 questions I kind of want to join together.
I know. Okay, so should I go to the CCC program or college? Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay.
So the CCCs is a great program. It's a good way to get started in the fire service and can lead to, it's really work experience, and it is valued in the fire service. Any experience is valued in the fire service. Or go to college. You know, I'm never going to turn down education. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So it really just depends on what your long-term goals are. I always think the CCC program is there, and an education is never going to serve you wrong and actually will benefit you in the fire service because it may give you a leg off from someone that doesn't have their AS or doesn't have their bachelor's degree. And we're always looking for candidates that are bringing more to the table, and that's what makes the fire service competitive. You can have the prerequisites. You can have the CPAT, you can have EMT, you can have the fire academy. Okay, cool. That's just to get you to apply. That has nothing to do with you getting hired. You getting hired means, okay, you met these check boxes, cool. We're gonna allow you to come in and take the test. But now we wanna know who you are. Do your values align with ours? Does your integrity show? And are you going to be a good fit with our team, and your personality comes out? You know, whether you have a ton of work experience or not, even if you worked at Home Depot, okay, great. What did you do at Home Depot? How did you help? You know, customer service, you know, all those different things you maximize, and you have a good positive personality. I'm going to want that person to come into my home because they know how to treat people, and they don't come in and say, oh, what's going on now? What do you want? Like, you know, all that really matters.
Yeah, I think the college question for me is basically, when I think about getting into the career in the fire service, like, yeah, it's definitely a vocational type career, right? You're working with my hands. Am I going to EMT or am I going to continue to go on to paramedic? College, one thing that's awesome about this generation is we have the opportunity to do college later. Like, you just finished your bachelor's, right? Online programs. Yeah. It's one of those things where just because you don't go to it now, I feel like you figure out the career, this is the career you want, right? So you take some fire science classes, you take your EMT, maybe you go to paramedic school, and then if you start getting picked up and you start going through the interview process, well, then do that. But I will say, this is a chief now, but if you want to promote in the job, administrative and educational, it does become more helpful. If you ever want to be like, I want to be the fire chief someday, you're probably most likely going to need to go get your degree, maybe even higher education. The education will come in handy at that point. It will also help you because, going to college, like, you may learn study skills, that
writing skills, speaking skills. There's a lot of people that don't have a lot of that skill set, and we're dealing with that now in the fire service. People that don't know business practices, business etiquette,
Well, like
and
running,
we're struggling.
Like I ran our Explorer program for a couple years, learning budget, learning how to write a proposal. Say you want to make something better in the fire department in the future. Do you know how to write a policy paper? Like, I mean, I do think that is super useful, but I think the great thing about the fire service is because of our schedule, if you want to go to school later on, you can, right? So don't feel like you have to do one way or the other. I think that's one thing that's so amazing about our profession is there is no right or wrong way to doing this. That's why I like a lot of these questions, because it's like you do what fits you.
Your life, actually.
Yeah, like, do you have the opportunity to go to college right now? If you don't sweat it. Like, it's okay, right? If you, do you have, okay, hey, I'm in college right now. Should I stop and go start take fire shot? No, do what works for you, because either way, we're gonna love having you.
But the CCC is a great program. It's a great work experience program, and a lot of fire departments may hire because you have that work experience. It's hard work. Yeah, it's hard work. Okay, so what is the difference between working in a city department versus wildland? I'm going to say one thing.
Uh-oh, it's going to be Cal Fire versus a city fire department right now.
Let's do it. Every firefighter in California is a wildland firefighter.
Very good point.
Everybody.
Yep.
I work for Cal Fire.
Yes.
But I've worked in municipal contracts.
Yep.
I would probably say I've been to less wildland fires than you have.
I mean, that's pretty, I mean, because so San Jose, we talk about it. So we have a wild urban interface, a wild and urban interface where San Jose is surrounded by hills. We have
that's California.
Yeah, I mean, right? It's like, I mean, we do strike team deployments, right? I mean, I work for a big city, but we go to wildland fires all the time. Every day there's a grass fire in San Jose. Every day.
And they set up their recliners and relax.
Yeah. So I mean, we joke about
teasing.
pavement queens versus billy goats.
Billy goats.
Yeah, we're like, hey, I'm a pavement queen.
I
I'm
love
a billy goat. But I don't know. I mean, so I work with a lot of guys in the city of San Jose, and it is a city fire department, but their specialty is wildland firefighting. But that's, I think, once again, when you're looking at the different fire departments that you want to apply to, look at what resources. Look if they do strike teams. Look to see what their focuses are, right? So it's like, obviously, a department like San Francisco might not really fight a lot of wildland fire because they are they're surrounded on all sides by water, basically.
But they go on strike teams a lot.
But they will go on a strike team, but that's more rare for them. Whereas if you look at San Jose, we fight grass fires every single day because we're surrounded by hills. We have a lot of wildland. So it's just kind of different.
But to say the difference, so I work for a state agency. I work for Cal Fire. So 60% of our department is actually municipal contract, where we are the fire department for a city, county, or fire district. 40% is the wildland side, but the 40% is where the big fires are. So that's what the critical infrastructure.
That's what everyone associates Cal Fire with.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
It's the big ticket items.
100%. And so to that point, being a state agency, we are different from a local government, right?
Yeah.
Our pay is different. Our pensions are not very different, but everything's a little bit different. So for me, the focus, of course, is more wildland. But I came into Cal Fire as a paramedic, and I worked for nine years as a firefighter, 2 medic, engineer medic. No wildland. I used to try and go out on strike teams, and they're like, "Get back here, we need you as a medic." And I'm like, the medic leash, right?
Yeah.
And so we always carried about 600 feet on our Type 1s. So I'm like, okay, 600 feet. And they're like, make the medic engine available. So I can't say there's a huge difference. Now, if you're talking about the Forest Service, that's a completely different agency. It's a federal agency.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a federal agency. And so they're even typed differently. But they are going to be wildland fires, and they don't do structure and things like that. They do assist us if possible, depending where they're at. But there really isn't a big difference between city and wildland in California. When you go to other states, that's very different. But everyone's a wildland firefighter nowadays, and you could work for my department and work very little on a wildland fire, as much as any city department would. You can work, in Riverside County. Or
I think that makes California firefighters pretty unique, because we have wildland weeks, wildland days in the academy, where that's all we learn. We get our red cards. We have a lot that are state certified. We send out single resources. Our chiefs, our captains. We have guys that are dozers, that run dozer crews, and it's like
you go to these big scale incidents, and a lot of the command team that runs this like big scale 1 million acre fire. A lot of them are local government people that came into the team.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's very incestuous.
Yeah, yeah. No, we're all kind of like one team.
Yeah.
You know.
So I can't say that there is a big difference. I personally do not see a big difference.
Right. No, and I think one thing that's different though about, I mean, everyone thinks about Cal Fire. So CDF, I mean, obviously that's a whole other thing, but I think Cal Fire, I think a lot of people assume if they go and they do seasonal work for Cal Fire that that's just what they're going to do, that they're going to go and do wildland firefighting or whatever it is.
And you will, but also you're going to assist on a structure fire too.
Exactly. So you have opportunity.
Happens a lot.
Yeah, you have
TCs.
opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think that's one thing I actually appreciate about Cal Fire is the opportunity that you have, like you guys have less stringent hiring because you have seasonals, you know, and then it brings up like.
Well, we have less stringent hiring and for the audience out there, you know, as a state agency, state agencies tend to be less restrictive in hiring than local governments. Local governments have a little more autonomy to hire and handpick the way they are, and as a state agency, we don't. So that does pose challenges because we don't have as many restrictions. But in that, I find we get people that maybe a local government might have turned down, and they're a great firefighter.
Yeah.
So sometimes I do perceive that local government fire departments are so restrictive, and they want this perfect candidate. And they're leaving a lot of great candidates on the table that would be super loyal and super empathetic and just be that good firefighter. So I think there's some merit in both.
Right. Especially, I mean, like operational need. We talk about paramedics. So there is a question over here asking, okay, is the paramedic route better for getting hired as opposed to the wildland route? And I do think that that's an important question you need to ask yourself. Liz and I love being paramedics. We've been paramedics for a long time. We really enjoy it. But if it isn't for you and that isn't your jam, I mean, and that's okay. I think being a paramedic opens up a lot of opportunity and doors for you in the municipal
I did it because I wanted to get a job, right?
Right.
So I didn't know I was going to love it. I wanted to be a doctor, but then when I got to firefighter, I go, oh no, this is my it.
Right.
And then I wasn't getting hired full time. And so I was like, man, if I don't go to paramedic school, I'm at the end of a very long line. Right. Because they had so many more certs and things than I did. So I did. I went to paramedic school and I got hired the next year. As soon as I was done paramedic school, I got hired. Right. And then I started doing it and I'm like, man, this is so fascinating. It's so interesting and you're solving this puzzle, but it isn't for everybody. And you'll have many opportunities in your fire service life to find an area of firefighting that is a passion to you, and then you go headlong into that and become the subject matter expert, and now you are an asset to your agency.
Yeah, I mean that question as far as like paramedic or wildland. Paramedic right now, there's no.
You can do both.
You can do both.
I mean, you could do either or.
Yeah,
what I'm
and
saying.
it's no secret that there is a shortage of paramedics currently in the country, nationwide. So if you do go to paramedic school, it is daunting, right? You're like, oh my God, I have to go to school for another.
The Forest Service is hiring. They're you know, people are coming over to Cal Fire, so
like I have to go to school, but it is school for another 12 months. So it is. You do have to consider that and be like, okay, I have to go to school for much longer. But it does open up. I mean, I feel this way personally, but I do feel like if you have the ability to go to paramedic school, I think it opens up so many more doors for you professionally. Just farther down the road, like more organizations. I do know of multiple small agencies that only hire paramedics. A lot of departments have ambulances or they transport attached to them. I know a lot of municipal departments. And so they do look specifically for the paramedic license. I don't promote going to paramedic school if you're not going to enjoy it. I don't know, I think life's too short. But I do think that it is something that you should...
commitment.
Yes, I do think it is something to consider, but paramedics also usually get a pay stipend. They usually get paid more. So it does, in the long run, I think, work out better. Yeah. But I think that also kind of brings up the question of, you know, big departments, small departments, and, you know, what you're looking for in a career.
Finding your people.
Yeah, finding your people.
So we have a question here. How do you decide between career versus volunteer? What's the difference? What's the biggest difference other than pay? And is there a difference in the number of calls you get to serve on? So career means that you are getting paid to be a firefighter. You get hired and you're getting paid to be a firefighter. Volunteer means that you are just showing up whenever you have some spare time, if they even have that program. Not every fire department has a volunteer program, so it really just depends on your geographic area. One, yes, you're getting paid. One, you're not getting paid. One has a higher level of prerequisites. The other one may not. So it just depends, and depends what you're looking for. If you already have a career, but you've always had this kind of interest in firefighting, and your local fire department takes volunteers, see what the prerequisites are, and maybe they provide that training for you, and then on a Saturday or Sunday that you're off, you assist and go run calls with the guys, and you have that experience. That's really as far as you're going to go with the volunteer department or volunteer position. But if it's a career, then you're saying, this is going to be my work life.
My job.
This is my job.
Full-time job.
Whether you're a lawyer, doctor, whatever you are, you know, carpenter, it doesn't matter. That is your life.
So near San Jose, we have the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I do know there are a ton of firefighters that I know, especially like from paramedic school, EMT school. They were all volunteer firefighters. They actually, a lot of volunteer departments, they're small, like in the mountains. They don't have the services to provide EMS or fire protection through whatever their tax makeup is or whatever their government is. So they have a volunteer department. It is also very prevalent on the East Coast, volunteer departments. It supplements, basically. So yeah, like Liz was saying, you can have a paid call system where you can get, if you have the free time to show up to a call, then you might get paid for that. But
there's not a ton of paid calls, though.
I'm not. Yeah, it is pretty
it's dying
rare.
out. Yeah.
It is, but it is one of those things like Liz was saying.
I see reserve programs more now.
Yeah, I've seen a few reserve, but a lot of times you have to live within that area, so you can't just like go be a volunteer for a city that you don't live in.
Yeah.
So like to be a volunteer for Felton Fire, you need to live in Felton. So it is one of those things where, but if you ask them what a volunteer firefighter, what they do for a job, they're going to say, oh, I'm a plumber. Career firefighter is, this is the decision I've made, like Liz said.
Yeah.
So this is where you get paid, benefits, et cetera, et cetera.
So now that you know you want to do it,
we've talked you into it now.
Yes, you're in.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. Now, how do I get ready?
Yes. And we have a lot of questions in this section, actually.
Okay,
so
perfect.
What I think before we get into the questions, let's hit some key things.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wrote some things down. I don't know what you wrote.
Okay.
So
let's see.
Mine there's like literally three.
Okay.
But with like 27 parts each.
Copy that. All right. What you got?
So getting in shape.
My number one.
Number one. Getting in shape. And yes, round is a shape, but it's not,
Hey, it's, you know what? I'm surprised. We had two guys in my academy. We called them baby rhinos because their hips, they were so muscular, but like they're like, have you seen like Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah.
Okay, like Christian, who's the other guy? Why can't I think of his name right now? Anyway, so you see football players, but they're so muscular, like they have to run, but they look round. You're like, are you in shape? And then they're just ox. They're
strong.
workhorses.
Yes.
Yeah. Get in shape.
Yeah, get in shape. Practice the CPAT and pass the CPAT for sure, right? And strength and technique, right? For women, you know, we have strength in different areas than men, and not to say that women are weaker because they're not actually. But we carry biologically muscles in different areas.
Right.
So women have a lot more power in their legs, you know. How often do you tease a guy, hey, you're going to work in a leg day, bro? You know, because he's like so buff up here, but he has skinny chicken legs. And there's nothing he can do about it.
Come from their lower body. Men,
it does.
Your shoulder strength, I'm just like, hey, guys, I got lath and plaster type of construction. Lath and plaster wall, I'm like, hey, guys, can you, it's just like, but that's what makes it so great because we have those.
That's the team strength though, right? So strength and technique and really getting the ergonomics down of the fire service. And if you have the ability to actually practice those specific skills of the CPAT, then you're going to build the muscles in the right places to make you successful with fire service. Shoulders, back, core. 100%. You're anaerobic and aerobic, right? So can you go a long distance, but can you go a short distance fast and hard and be able to recover and still have the oxygen needed to do the strength piece of it, right? So those are my key ones, just to how do I get ready in the short term, just so you could even just start testing.
Right.
What do you have?
So my number one is physical fitness. The number one reason that we let people go in academy is they are not physically prepared. So I'll be honest, like I was an athlete my entire life. I was a competitive boxer for a really long time. I always felt like I was in good shape, but when you start prepping for a fire academy, our gear weighs about 70 pounds. So I was unprepared asked to be told to do all these tasks while wearing 70 pounds.
Yeah, not just your boxing shorts and a tank top.
No, exactly. So suddenly I'm like, I'm getting winded faster. I'm realizing that my agility, like wearing gloves and being able to do things. So start practicing the way you're going to play. it's one of those things where it's like, go get a weight vest.
Weight vest is 100% the jam.
Yeah, you have to work out.
100% the jam.
You know what I actually did is I actually got like a strength coach. So it was like one of those online things where it's like, hey, like I knew the guy, but I'm like, hey, can you give me a workout plan where one, I know I'm gonna need to work on my upper body strength because all my strength is in my hips. So he gave me a workout plan where I just went heavy and hard on my shoulders and my arms.
Yeah.
And that really helped me for like throwing ladders and doing all the tasks that I knew a firefighter was going to be asked to do. You train the way you're gonna play. So know the tasks that you're gonna be asked to do and prepare that way physically because Academy is 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You're gonna be wearing your bunker gear and you're gonna be asked to be performing in that gear. So if you're not preparing for something that serious, then you're going to be unprepared. So that's my number one. Please prepare physically and you need to start sooner rather than later. You can't do a workout program for 90 days and think that you're gonna be ready for a fire academy, especially some fire academies out there that are really rigorous. My number two thing is how do you get ready? You have to prepare for the process. So there's a written test. If you're doing the physical preparation, you're gonna be fine on CPAT, right? I'd still recommend going to CPAT practice days. Proctors are there to help you with the skills so that you can definitely get it in the time that's required. Written test, once again, FCTC is great with giving you prep courses for that. Make sure you take the prep courses because there's
an art to taking a written test.
There is, and I can speak from experience in my organization. If they're coming down to 2 or 3 candidates and they're like, ooh, okay, yeah, one of these 3, you know, the interviews.
And they're all great.
They're all great, and they have some notes from the interview process. It's going to like, okay, well, who scored, like, or even getting to the interview process.
Yeah.
What was your test score? Like, did you get, so a lot of organizations, what they're going to do is they're going to, you're going to take the FCTC, you're going to take the written test, and then they're going to say, okay, we need 500 people to come to interviews.
And we want 500 people that scored 80% to 100% on the written.
That's the point. They're going to have, okay, so if I want 500 people, then let's make the minimum score 85. Okay, but depending on where that organization wants that test score to be, you need to score higher than that to guarantee yourself getting interviews for every department that you want. So take the practice test, take the practice CPAT sessions, and then do interview prep. So it's like prepare for the process. You can be an amazing candidate and be the perfect fit for the fire department, for the fire service in general, but if you don't prepare for the actual testing process, if you don't do the interview prep, you don't do the CPAT prep, and you don't do the written test prep, you're going to make yourself almost borderline. Like, we're gonna have a hard time vouching for you if you got 79 when the cutoff was 80, right? So it's just, so I would say prepare for that test process. And the last part, this one's I don't know. I thought if you're going to prepare for the job, you need to understand that you're going to be living and working with different personalities. For my department, we work 48-hour shifts. So learn how to cook, learn how to be clean, learn how to be social.
Yes, hygiene.
Learn how to, it's amazing. Like, but those are the things that like people may or may not want to work with you. So if I'm going to tell you to be successful in the fire service, I'm going to tell you to work out, to prepare appropriately, and then just to learn how to live with other people that aren't your family.
That is huge, and understanding that, you're living with strangers that become family, but they're not your family.
No, you still got to feel them out for that.
And at the end of the day, it's still a business environment.
Very
you're
much
literally
so.
still in your office.
Yeah.
Now you sleep at your office.
Right.
You know, can you imagine working in like a business office environment, but you don't get to leave?
Yeah.
You got to clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
Mow the front lawn. Like you do it all in your business.
So I don't eat meat. So it's one of those things where when I walk into a firehouse,
we forgive her for that, by the way.
I know. But I volunteer to cook. I'm like, hey, because I can cook with meat. So it's like, so I volunteer. Hey guys, I'll make whatever. So it's like I learned how to cook with meat. Like I learned how to make things that are people pleasers, right? Like crowd pleasers. You know, because it is your family, and you want to provide for them. You want to fill them up, especially when you're going into work, right? Like you know that we need healthy meals. We're going to work long hours. And it's very much a bonding experience. You know, dinner table time in the firehouse is a special time. It's where we solve the world's problems. So it's
so true.
So it is one of those things where you need to be a good cook. You need to be able to cook like at least 5 things.
Yeah.
But that's how you get ready for the fire service, because the fire department that hires you is going to prepare you. They're going to teach you how to respond to emergency calls. They're going to teach you how to do the actual job. But the things in the fire service that they don't prepare you for,
is how to live with strangers.
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Like conflict resolution, that is such a challenge nowadays. Right. People are afraid to confront things and not be confrontational, and sadly what we are seeing, and I bring this up intentionally, and sadly what we are seeing is people filing, investigations against each other because they just couldn't communicate and have this misunderstanding, and that's not something we value in the fire service. The whole point is like, if my life depends on you and your life depends on me, then we should be able to have a communication. Yeah. And when you think about it, you're in a relationship with your coworkers because you live together. You're literally in a relationship with them, and so all that is part of getting ready to conflict resolute, to have the communication, to be able to come in and adapt. The survivability of you being in the fire service is directly related to your adaptability. 100%.
Ooh, I like that. Put that one on a postcard.
Yes.
Yes.
Sticker.
Love it.
Okay, so let's get some questions.
All right, let's do it.
How hard was EMT school? Ooh, see, I love this question. I think it's harder than medic school.
Dude, I was about to say the same thing. Okay,
so we just become best friends?
We just became best friends.
Totally became best friends right now.
But no, I thought EMT school was harder. It was my first experience into anything medical.
Medical terminology, understanding. Took me 3 days to understand the blood flow of the heart.
I was so nervous because I knew EMTs worked on ambulances, and I kind of knew, I knew paramedics were like a higher level, but I was so nervous that like, if I don't memorize this entire textbook, I'm going to kill someone. Yeah. And so for me, it was really nerve-wracking. Like I remember like, freaking out that I couldn't remember where insulin was made and the pancreas, all these different things. Yeah. But once again, like I was saying before, in paramedic school I was way less stressed because I understood.
You knew the concepts.
Well, I understood they were going to break it down for me like they did in EMT school, but I almost didn't trust in the system, and I should have trusted in the system. Well, it's just like, okay,
but you came from government. How could you not trust?
I'm not. How could I not trust? But no, so it was one of those things where it's like EMT school, like I was so overwhelmed by the possible responsibility I would have, and it was a new introduction. So, but I didn't trust the process because I'd never been in a vocational type thing before. I'd very like
college classes,
white collar. I took U.S. history, and like that it doesn't. The correlation wasn't there. But EMT, like I'm about to go be an EMT.
And someone's life is in your hands.
But here's the thing, it's 3 months, right? I went to community college, 3 months of EMT school, and the skills days, they prepare you, right? Yeah. And honestly, nothing prepares you more than just getting more than you know when you hit the line.
Yeah.
That's, I will say, like same with the fire academy, right? Like, I'm like, they're gonna trust me with a burning building after this? Like, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And then you
realize... But it's on-the-job training.
But you realize that you absorb way more than you think you do.
100%.
Yes.
So yes, EMT school is hard, but again, at the end of the day, your effort is going to determine your success. And it's not uncommon for people to take EMT school 2 or 3 times. It's totally fine. Yeah. And when they go back again, they actually understand the material even better. So yes, it is hard, but people's lives are in your hands, so it should be a little hard.
Yeah,
should be a little hard.
No, I agree.
But there's so many people who are EMTs, totally doable.
Oh, yeah.
Totally doable.
Yeah. And honestly, I will say an EMT school, if you felt, I don't know, if you feel fascinated by it, then please consider a paramedic school.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
What's the best way to prepare and pass the interview? Oh.
I love interviews. They're my favorite.
Me too, but I'm a people person. Look at us, we're little chatty Cathys,
I know.
So yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, no. Literally.
Yeah. Interviews. Yes. The best thing I could say about interviews, know thyself. Know thyself. You like that?
That is awesome.
No, but so I teach interview prep, right? So I meet with the candidate. It'll take like an hour or two. I'm going to ask you about yourself. I'm going to ask you, tell me your story in your words, like non-interview format. I just want to get to know you. You're going to tell me tidbits about your life. And then I work with you to get your questions down to a 20-minute fire interview. So the whole thing of a fire interview, basically, they want to know 3 things. They want to, 1, can you answer the question, right? Basically, it's like, hey, what have you done to prepare for the fire service? Answer that question. 2, tell a story that tells me a little bit about you. because that's what I'm doing in that interview. I'm interviewing you. I want to know, you meet the quals, right? High school graduate, EMT, you know, whatever it is, you meet all the minimum qualifications to be sitting in front of me in the interview. So what I want you to do is I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. So answer the question, tell a little bit about yourself and how it applies to the fire service. So that's kind of, but you need to practice and you need to know what it is that makes you special. The best advice I ever got in an interview was make them give you a nickname. And I have continued to hold to that whenever I go talk to anyone who's going through the interview process. What is it about you that makes you special? What makes you different? Because everyone else is coming in before and after you.
With the exact same, sometimes the exact same,
yeah.
like items you have, fire academy,
100%. I'm like, check, okay,
yeah,
I've done the
ambulance
same
time.
thing.
Yeah.
But what's gonna make me sit up and pay attention to you is what makes you different. And that's like, oh, okay, oh, you were a boxer. Oh, okay, you worked in DC. Like, that's what made me different from the person coming in behind me.
And
you
did a YouTube video.
I did a YouTube video?
Did you not do a YouTube video on interviews?
Oh, that's right. I did do that.
Ah.
I forgot it was a YouTube video.
You can't have Alzheimer's
it was
and still
after
work in
an
the fire
expo.
service.
No, so
right,
that's
Corey?
another reason why you should come out for an expo, because we did some interview panel information after it. But yeah, I love interviews. So if you see me at the expo, come ask me about it. Good prep.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
But mock oral boards was another thing I would say.
Yeah, and we've had actually candidates come to the firehouse, if maybe it was someone's kid or whatever, and say, hey, would you please help me get better? And so we would pretend to be a little oral board, and they would come in and do their presentation. And it applies just enough pressure, makes them nervous that they can see their weaknesses.
Yeah.
It's
so
a great
if you're
tool.
applying for a specific department, then go on their website and be like, hey, can I do a ride-along? Can I do a station visit? Call up that station. Hey, can I come in for a mock oral? One, you're going to get to know and ask some of the questions from the people at the firehouse, but also if they can sit down and do a mock oral, they're going to give you that immediate feedback of where you can improve, and you never know which one of them might actually be on your panel.
And fun fact, fire service culture, never show up empty-handed.
Ooh, yeah.
You don't go to someone's house empty-handed, so just buy a little thing of cookies, a little thing of ice cream, just something easy, nothing expensive.
If you bake, even better.
Depending.
Oh yeah, depending. If you're not so good.
Yeah.
Don't risk it.
But yeah, no, fire service, we want to help people. We want people to come into the fire service. So.
That's what's so much fun. In the fire service, there's not many careers where your peers are going to be the ones hiring you, but the fire service literally is, we're sitting in an interview panel.
With our peers.
I'm interviewing my coworkers, like my future coworkers. So that's
crazy. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay. Let's see. How long does the whole process take to become a firefighter? That's very personal dependent. It depends on your timeline, on your ability. Do you work a full-time job? I would say if you had zero responsibilities and maybe you were still young enough and you lived at home, okay, as an example. I would say it would take you, if you did your EMT, went to fire academy, maybe while you're doing some ambulance time, and then start looking at paramedic school. But if you got on maybe a large department that doesn't require fire academy, it's all that in there. I could say if you tried really hard, a year.
Yeah.
A year and a half. And that's if you're lucky to get hired on that quick.
Yeah,
and it
definitely.
could happen.
No, it could. It very much could. Like if you are go to EMT school, you're physically, you've maintained, you're always in shape.
Maybe you were already athletic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you apply to a department and you knock that interview out of the park. There's a very good chance you could, you could. That's definitely a possibility. But I also know some amazing firefighters that it took them years to get hired just because they weren't prepared or whatever it was.
It took me 8 years to get full time.
Really?
Yeah, it took me a long time. And it was only because I went to paramedic school. I would take interviews and just wasn't.
See, and I knew I wanted to go paramedic, so I didn't even start applying until I had already been a paramedic for 2 years. That's when I'm like, okay, I'm a paramedic. I've been a paramedic for 2 years. So, now I'm going to start applying. So I took a little bit longer on the paramedic path. But I had a great time on the ambulance.
So I say at the quickest, a year and a half, if you got lucky to get a job right away. If not, it's really your pace. Yeah. It's really your pace.
And I do,
the check boxes
hindsight's 20/20, right? So you're going to look back after you get your job and you're going to be like, man, that took me 8 years. But what did you do in between? You went to paramedic school, which has given you job opportunities, right? I got to travel. I got to do all these.
Worked at an ambulance. Yeah.
Right. So don't get discouraged.
Yeah. I always say when you're trying to get hired, do something while you're doing nothing. So you went to EMT school, perfect. Now you're getting ready to go to fire academy. Well, we'll work part time for an ambulance company or start working towards your AS. Do something while you're doing nothing in preparation for the fire service.
100%.
What should your resume look like? Oh, I love this because I do a lot of resume reviews, and it is sad state of affairs. Oh my God. sad state of affairs. What I find is candidates don't harness the experience that they don't even know that they're getting, right? So were you in a service club in high school?
Yes. Oh,
right?
Perfect example, yeah.
Were you in sports? I value that.
Yeah.
Then you understand team dynamics, right? That's huge value,
Right.
but they don't even put that, right? A lot of people will think that they shouldn't put all this non-related fire experience, but I want to know that.
Yeah.
I want to know
Because
that you worked
everyone
for
else
a
that's coming in
fabricator.
after you already has that experience.
I
You
want
all
to know
the
if you worked
same.
for a fabricator, even if you just swept the garage. Oh my God, he knows how to
Yeah.
sweep.
Oh yeah.
God bless him.
No,
you know?
I just met with a guy recently. We're helping him with interview prep, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like, I just started taking up cabinetry. I've been working in a cabinet
Oh my
shop.
God, a carpenter.
Yeah, he's like, I just started working
Yeah.
there. He's like, but I'm learning how to do this. I'm like, please talk about that.
Yes.
I'm like, if you don't talk about it in the interview, I'm like, one, that tells me that you can work with tools. It tells me that you
have
can
building
follow,
construction
you can
knowledge.
follow instructions, right? You've been mentored before.
Yeah.
You've been an apprentice.
Yes.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
But yeah,
that
customer service.
yes,
you
customer
know,
service.
teamwork.
People don't put unrelated fire jobs because they think it's I need to put just
Which is-
fire stuff I've done.
oh, yeah. And they
so
do
then
that
it looks
with
like they only had 2 jobs in their entire life.
And they do
I'm
that
like,
with their interviews as well.
Yeah.
They only answer the fire interview, like,
Yeah.
oh, tell us a time you had a difficult, situation.
Yeah.
And they always try to give a fire EMS. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It can be a difficult personal situation that you went through, right? When you talk about fire interviews, it doesn't have to be fire related, but whatever it is, like that's the beauty about the fire service, because we deal with life. When people call 911, we're dealing with, so it's like, so you may have had an experience in your life where you're going to be that person that is like the key part to helping that call that day because of something non-fire related.
Yeah.
So.
And honesty and transparency. Don't try to hide things. If you were let go from a job, then just say it. Things sometimes don't work out. You know, to be a firefighter, you don't have to be perfect by no stretch of the imagination, but you have to be transparent and trustworthy. Those
Right.
are the 2 things in the fire service you have to be, and that will show in your resume if you have lapse in jobs, and you don't explain why.
Yeah.
You know,
Because, right, so, okay, little personal story about me. I knew I wanted to join the fire department. I applied with a fire department. I got hired. I got through. I was in academy. Physically, I had not prepared appropriately, right? I was physically fit. I was there, but I was getting through the skills, but I struggle busted a little bit. And I just wasn't having fun. And I actually, so I resigned from that academy.
Yeah.
And I went to Iceland. I took myself in the middle of winter to Iceland, and I just took time where I thought about if that's what I wanted to do. But if you looked at my resume and it showed that I only had a short stint in this fire department and then I resigned and then I did nothing for a few months, that doesn't look very good. But when I am able to explain it and be like, hey, I really dug deep and I wanted, I wasn't really having fun, but it was because of my not preparing appropriately for the job, just thinking, oh, well, I'm an athlete, I can do this. Or was it something else? Or was it is this what I want to do? And that soul searching and that really thinking about, I'm like, man, I really just can't consider, I can't imagine not doing this. And so then I prepared better, and then I applied with my second fire department and I got hired in San Jose. So it was one of those things where explain those gaps, be honest.
That's right.
And
because it's not a deal breaker for us. We can't have perfection.
And I learned from my fails so much better than my successes.
And to be honest, if I have concerns as someone who hires people, when someone is too perfect, because it means that they're not, they're hiding something. Or, and not to say someone is inherently bad, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying when they won't admit or have difficulty being vulnerable, then I have a distrust that if they do something wrong, they're more worried about being perfect than taking responsibility and saying, oh man, I screwed this up, I learned from it, will never happen again.
Or you know what else I worry about? Our job, we don't always get the happy ending.
That's right.
So what are you going to do if you've never dealt with failure, if you've never dealt with not being successful? If you're a paramedic that suddenly runs that full arrest and you don't get pulses back, are you going to be able to handle that?
Which happens more often than not.
It does. So, it is one of those things where it's our job is to try to do everything we can to help people.
And sometimes we're not successful.
But sometimes we're not successful. So if you haven't had any failures in your life, I'm like, ooh, I would be concerned about, are you going to be able to handle it? I don't.
Yeah, the resiliency.
that would be.
It becomes a resiliency question. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, so that's what we're saying about the resume. Just be honest, be transparent. Say, hey, I don't have a lot of experience,
Right.
but you will never have a better gopher or
Right.
ditch digger
Right.
or hose puller than me.
But yeah,
like, sell
volunteer
yourself.
experience, customer service
Yeah.
experience, travel,
It's all good.
and yeah, but also please format it appropriate. I mean, there's all. I'm not
Spell
very
check.
computer savvy, but there are like AI things out there that you can work with your resume.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I will tell you, and that's a good point. And I am very disappointed in applications because when people write their job responsibilities, they write a sentence.
Oh yeah.
All lowercase, like that is
Yeah.
not appropriate. And I will not look at someone that has all
little
lowercase,
concerned.
one sentence. No.
Well, like paramedics, like we
Yeah,
write
not
reports.
appropriate.
As a captain, there's a writing portion to promoting. So you
Yeah.
have to be
No.
able to communicate clearly, and written communication is huge.
Yeah. If it doesn't look professional, I'm
Yeah.
not even going to look at it.
Yeah.
Let's see. How can one physically prepare for the career? What are the best methods of training for the CPAT? I think we kind of covered that, to be honest. Yeah.
I mean, just
answered.
depending on, right, knowing what your weaknesses are. I knew mine
There's
was
a
going
lot
to
of
be
resources on YouTube.
Oh yeah, there's great
Ton.
resources. So look at Becoming a Firefighter. They have great resource tips out there. There's even someone that works at Cal-JAC that will help you with workout plans.
Yes.
So reach out to Becoming a Firefighter. They'll be able to help you. But yeah, if you just Google, honestly, there's amazing
There's a lot.
resources out there.
There's a lot. Let's see. How can I begin the fire academy? Most fire academies are through a community college. Most, not all.
Right.
But you
Yes.
want to make sure it's state accredited. Go to your community college and see if they have any prereqs. Most fire academies require EMT. Most,
Right.
not all, but most do. So you probably have to do that first. And then for the fire academy, they may have some fire science classes you need to take. The one I went through had
Right.
to take 3. So talk to a career counselor, let them know what you want to do, and they'll give you an outline, and just follow the outline. It's really that easy. There is nothing in the fire service that is shady or not laid out for you.
We call it firefighter proof.
Yeah, firefighter proof. So
Laid it out.
Yeah, truly just your tenacity. That's all that you need to add.
Yeah.
Everything, the path is laid out for you. As long as you have the tenacity to stick with it and put in the effort and the hard work, you will be a firefighter.
Yeah.
It literally is 100% in your hands.
I will say, for those of you who are like, "Oh, fire academy, wait, what? I thought I got hired and then I went through a fire academy." Yes, that is true as well. Not everyone,
good point.
Yeah, not everyone needs to go through a fire academy nor wants to go through a fire academy. So fire academy, you can do what we call a paid call academy or paid academy. So basically, you can pay to go through a firefighter 1, state certification. You can get
State Fire Marshal certified.
Right, and so that will help. A lot of smaller departments that sometimes will require it to get hired. So, if you like, hey, I have a dream department, I'm born and raised here, I know this is the department I want to work for, they may require it because they may not have the resources to put you through a full fire academy. A lot of times also, if you are concerned, if you're, what would you say earlier? If you're not moving forward, do something.
You got to do something while you're doing nothing.
Yes, you got to do something. So if you are waiting, then maybe you're like, hey, it's been 2 years, I'm not getting hired. You know what, going to a fire academy, it just proves that you can pass, the department or the city or whatever is about to take a chance on you, hiring you.
And you come with a level of knowledge.
And you're like, I've already passed a fire academy, I can physically do the job, and I've taken all the written tests. So it's just kind of, you don't necessarily need to do one, but if you're concerned about even, like, I don't want to, when I get the job, I don't want to fail, it is a good way to test where you're at. It is a good way to open up more doors that may require it for applying. So it's just something to consider.
Yeah,
but
great networking too.
Yeah,
There are a lot of instructors who are retired firefighters.
Oh yeah, and then if you want, exactly. Most of them are working firefighters or retired, and they'll be able to help you with interview prep and
great networking.
Yeah, great networking.
Let's see. Any tips for someone who is going to start their EMT classes? Yes, the one and only tip: read the book. Don't cheat sheet it. Don't cheat sheet it. Don't look for the tests online because this school.
Don't use ChatGPT to do your papers.
Dude,
actually read it, because like Liz was saying earlier, you will come across it where someone's life will be in your hands. So take it seriously.
Yeah, take it seriously.
Whatever
that's
your
the
study
only thing.
habits
Read
are.
the book. Put in the work and effort, and you will not have a difficult time with EMT.
Don't overload yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, oh, I need to get my EMT, don't do the 2-week intensive class if you know you don't have the time or the money. Make it work for you, because it is important to have that foundation, because like Liz was
a
saying,
building
right?
block.
Some departments, up to 90% of their calls, sometimes more, are EMS. So you have to be prepared. That is the foundation now. Like the fire service, we do fire suppression and we do all these things. The EMS is such a big part. So EMT is important.
Yeah,
It
very
is.
important. Can you go to fire stations to train with the firefighters? Example, throwing ladders and hoses.
Ooh.
Probably not, just
Yeah.
because it's a liability,
Right.
right? So
That's where Fire Academy comes in, or if you're young enough, the
Yes.
Explorer program, volunteer, paid call. Like that's where you would get that opportunity.
And depending,
Yeah.
you could.
It's just a liability for
it
whatever
is. It's a
organization
huge
you're going
liability.
to throw. If you get hurt, it's technically on them. So a lot of
Yeah.
places I know are kind of shying away from that. But there are also things that you can do on your
There's
own.
workout classes.
Yeah, no, exactly. There
Where
are
you lift
things you can
ladders
do. Exactly, right? So it's like, okay, hey, I have a ladder at home. Okay, it's a straight stick. It's not an extension, but I can get the movements down, and I'll put a
Yeah.
weight vest on. And
Yep.
okay, yeah, I have a sledge and a tire. Okay, that's similar to the axe movement. You can do
Yeah.
certain things to prepare without
Yeah.
doing the actual act.
And actually coming to a career expo.
Oh, there we
And-
go.
Yeah, and you can run through practice CPAT, and you can do these movements and these things to practice and see where you're at and see where
Yeah.
your weaknesses are. So yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, to go to fire stations, it's a
Yeah.
liability, because even if you didn't get hurt, but maybe you pulled a muscle,
Yeah.
it's a liability for that the city owns it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of places might be shying away from
Yeah.
that.
I'm looking to change career paths from healthcare to Cal Fire. Yes, yes. Eat that, San Jose.
Listen.
Besides coming in EMT, what else do I need to do? Kind of what we've already talked about. If you could do Fire Academy, that's just going to help you that much better. Cal Fire, once you get hired on permanently, we'll put you through an academy, but you could be working as a seasonal prior to that and be a good resource as part of the crew, because you already have that baseline foundation. So I would say for sure, if you can get some fire science classes, building construction is huge in the fire service. So part of your fire science classes, I know one of them is building construction. Even if you didn't, it wasn't a requirement for the Fire Academy, it is an incredibly important skill set to have, and that would just make you even that much more marketable. Understanding, and you're going to go into building. Once you take that class, you can't help but go into buildings like,
and
it's
I learned so much.
Concrete tilt up.
I bought my first house,
Truss
and it
roof,
was
yeah.
amazing the things that I could do on my own simply because I'd taken the building construction and
Yeah.
being a firefighter, going on the types of calls we go on. Oh, there's an electrical smell. Okay, well let's find the outlet.
Yes.
You learn so many skills being a firefighter that have been so useful. But
Yep.
if you come in with them, that's even better.
100%. And that's what it. And the more important skills, like I said, we can teach you everything,
Yeah.
but the more important skills is willingness to serve, a willingness to take direction, a positive attitude. I tell people I can teach anyone anything, but I can't teach you to have a better attitude. You come with that.
Yes. And that's
So,
important.
It is hugely important, because now I'm working next to someone for the next 30 years and they're a sourpuss. No, thank you.
It just makes my day not fun.
Not
and the
fun.
fire service is inherently fun.
Yeah,
so.
and you're around that person 20, and this is something you don't understand, or maybe people don't understand either, is that you're working with someone, you do 48s.
Yeah.
So you're with those 3 people for 48 hours,
Oh, yeah.
which means you can't even be very far from them, because you all have to get to the engine within a minute during the day.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
for us, it's 3 minutes at night.
Oh no, we got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh my dang, slave drivers.
We have a timer.
Yeah,
Clock down.
but to be honest, you're around these people a lot. So if you are bringing some negativity to the table,
Right.
it is a cancer to the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
So a positive attitude, a willingness to work, a willingness to serve, and a team effort. If you can bring that up,
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What's the best way to prepare for the written test? The sample questions I've seen about pulleys and siren decibels have me reeling. This is not in my wheelhouse.
Right there with you, person who asked this question. So
Yeah.
when I first was looking into doing a written test, there was a whole section on mechanical aptitude, and I was like, oh no. The best thing you can do is take the practice test. All right, there's a small fee, may even get waived depending on if you're able to apply for financial need. I know there's also definitely some help that's available out there through FCTC. Please go to the website and check it out. It's pretty much just getting, it's not as bad as it seems. For someone who really was unprepared for the mechanical aptitude part as well. Just taking the practice test is the best thing you can do. You're going to understand that it's actually more asking about your ability to problem solve and do some logical thinking. They use pulleys and mechanical stuff because you do become more mechanically inclined working in this profession. You have to work with tools like chainsaws, and you have to learn about two-stroke engines, and if you
even EMS, moving patients.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You have someone is on the floor, and God bless them, they can't get themselves up.
Yeah.
But they're fairly sizable, right? So you have to mechanically figure out how you're going to get that person out without killing everyone's back.
Right. But as far as the written test goes, there's so many resources out there, especially.
I think there's a book, Mechanics for Dummies, that those little self-help books.
Is that my Christmas present?
But no, there's definitely a lot of resources out there, and especially particularly to pulleys, you can find a lot of videos on YouTube that will slowly explain it. And I did that too when I was taking my test, and it just broke it down in a very systematic way.
Right. I mean, and I was say, I'm like breaking down in a systematic way, and there are official instructors. There's an online test prep. Take that. Honestly, that's going to prepare you better than you stressing out about it. It's just like you're able to go and actually look at the
and the questions.
Just read them. Just read the full question.
Then they're generally the same. The fire service isn't reinventing the wheel. You know what I'm saying? So what they're really looking for is the components of all these different questions are going to be the same. So they just want to know you have the understanding of what the mechanical advantage is, not necessarily that you have to solve this complicated issue. So
it's like, let me look at this whole cookie factory and let me see what
pulley's going
what
this way,
cog
now
is
it's going that
broken.
way.
Okay, it's that one. That's why the system isn't working. That's the type of logical thinking they need you to figure out.
Yep, 100%. So it is a challenge for a lot of people, and you won't realize even in your daily life how you're doing mechanical advantage. So once you understand what mechanical advantage is and what it's trying to do, then it makes the concept of learning it so much easier.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for women trying to get hired in the fire service? Oh my God, it's a whole nother 4-hour segment. Just kidding. We're not going to be here for 4 hours. I'm just kidding.
My answer's pretty short. Due to gender norms, right? For those of you who are curious about women in the fire service, it's relatively newer, in the last few decades. I would say as a woman in the fire service, the best advice that I give women that come to me, the natural inclination to think that a woman isn't going to fit in. So you have to be able to get over that in your interview. So talk about your athletic prowess, talk about you going through a fire academy, talk about how you were in team sports, talk about how you were an athlete, because being physically fit is a huge aspect of the fire service. And as a woman, because our strength is different than a man's, you have to basically get that across in your interview of
I've been focusing on on strength,
right? Like, hey, I've made an effort, I've been through a fire academy, I was an explorer, like whatever it was, prove to them that you can physically do the job. And talk about it in your interview, right? Like if I'm preparing to get into the fire service, I'm going to make sure I hammer home that I know I can physically do this job. And then I'm also going to show them that I'm a team player, that I'm, right? I grew up with I have 4 brothers. None of them are athletic. They watch baseball.
But you're the boxer?
I love it. It was special.
It. You're the boxer.
But it was one of those things where it was like, but I grew up around all boys, and knowing that the fire service is predominantly male, as a woman, I wanted them to know that I could hang. So I made sure to drop, hey, you know what? I am the sister of 4 lovely brothers, but I grew up in a boxing gym and I grew up with brothers. So I kind of want to just put everyone, I think there's still some apprehension or like women in the fire service. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, so I just like to head it off immediately and be like, hey, dude, I know I can physically do this job. Been through fire academy. I'm super athletic, and I can hang. I'm.
And you just show it. And you just showed it, right? You don't wake up and say, "Hey guys, I can hang." Okay, ready to go. Like no, you threw the ladder without an issue. You pulled the hose. You got up in the morning and did what the captain asked you to do.
But the number one reason women fail is typically they don't prepare physically, because it is technique. It is different.
It is.
A lot of the fire service stuff is upper body, and because that is women carry their strength in their lower body, you do have to prepare appropriately. So in the interview, I like to make sure I knock all of them, but also the biggest thing I can tell women is just to actually physically prepare, because the rest of it,
Yeah.
Nice.
Women are usually great test takers.
100%,
So,
yeah.
so they're great test takers. Women bring a lot to the table. They bring a lot of maturity, emotional maturity. But yeah, it's the physical piece, but that can be overcome. The physical is literally the easiest part. And even if you're on the shorter side, one of my best friends, she works for a fire department, and she's 5'2", and she kills it. But she keeps herself in shape, right? She works on strengths, her shoulders, all these different areas. Yeah. And so again, you're gonna get out of it what you put into it. So for a female in the fire service, I would just say, if you aren't used to working in a team environment, that's going to be something that I would recommend. Join a group, do something that puts you in that team environment, because that is the focus of the fire service, is how we coalesce together as a team.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we kind of, how do we prepare, right? How do we get ready? So now our next topic, drum roll. I'm hired. Holy shit, now what?
All right, you've been through the interview process. You prepared appropriately. You're physically right. You've done everything that you should. Now what do I expect? What do I do? What do I do?
So, so we have two questions here that are very similar. So we're going to kind of like merge them.
Okay, I like it.
One mega question.
I like the mega questions.
You like the mega question? I like mega
parts.
questions, right? Okay. Have either of us experienced being the only woman in our fire department? And how do you prepare mentally and physically? I think we'll talk about the mental piece, because I think there's some merit there.
Yeah, I agree.
But the physical piece, I think we've answered.
I think we've covered the physical part.
Yeah. And you did speak a little bit about being a woman in a male-dominated field.
Like I have been the only woman. So yeah, you're going to find that, especially the large smaller departments, you might run, I don't even know what smaller departments, I can't talk to them. But no, there's oftentimes I will go weeks, months without running into another woman. It is not uncommon. 4.7% is the national average of women in the fire service, and it varies greatly. Yeah. So you just have to be confident in yourself and comfortable, knowing that you're going to be unique, right? And this is something that minorities in general have to deal with, but I think confidence in yourself is the biggest thing that you can do. And
100%.
And I don't think that it ever. Gender doesn't really necessarily. If you've proven you can do the job,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's always going to be negative people in any workforce. That is not a fire service exclusivity. However, I do believe that to be in the fire service as anybody. You need to have a strong sense of yourself. You have to know your boundaries. You have to know your morals, your values, all those different things. You have to know who you are, because the fire service, we are going to test you. We want to know, do you buckle under pressure? Do you get mad easily? Because if you're completely calm and you have a very short fuse, well, when you're completely stressed out on an incident, you could be enraged, right? Yeah. So we are going to poke you and test you in a professional way and tease you, because we want to see really what you're made of. But again, I work for a department that's had women all the time. And I wasn't always surrounded by women, but I've had some great women mentors and great coworkers. And I will say one of the reasons I got on the Women's Commission is because when I first came on, we were very segregated with each other, right? Yeah. Like if maybe someone didn't care for you, but I'm like, oh, I cannot even talk to her. I can't associate because I'm trained by association. And I didn't realize that until I got older, and I started realizing that there wasn't any more women. And I'm like, there's no more. Yeah. Like, it's literally the same as when I first got hired. And I'm like, why is that? And so I really did a lot of self-reflection, actually. This is just before getting on the Women's Commission.
Okay.
And I realized that I was the problem. I was the problem, because I didn't say, I got you, girl. Like, hey, that's not cool. You shouldn't even say that.
Yeah.
But we're so worried about getting along, and I want to be accepted. And I'm not worried about being, I don't need to be accepted.
Yeah.
The department or the city hired me. I am accepted.
Right.
So whether you like me or not, that's, a matter of preference.
Right.
Not everybody loves Liz, I found out.
I love Liz.
She loves me. But
no, I think that also, if you have the confidence, that's the mental preparation to do, is having that confidence yourself.
Know who you are, what you're.
Yes.
I know what I'm weak at. I know what I'm good at.
Right.
So I have confidence in what I'm good at.
I will say I didn't have when I first got into the fire service, I didn't have a lot of female mentors or friends that I could go to. I've developed them, right? Like amazing friends, and like you and Adrian, and it's one of those things where that's really helped me. That fills me up, I'll say.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to go down to San Diego and do their girls empowerment camp. That was probably the most amount of female firefighters I'd ever been around. And that was my 3rd year in the fire service. And I'm like, ooh, they're doing a girls camp. There's other female firefighters. I'm gonna go see them.
Yeah.
So I flew down to San Diego, and the women of San Diego Fire let me be a part of this girls camp. And I got to interact, and I found some amazing women that just filled my cup up. But also, finding male mentors. My biggest support system in the fire department have been men. It's just, statistically speaking, that's just like who my mentors are.
Right.
And I do think just that also helps me mentally, like those cheerleaders, those allies, those ones. So find yourself a cheerleading group.
I agree with that. But I also believe that in order for someone to believe in you, you have to show that you have a passion for the job.
Yes.
You're not there to create problems. You're not there to question. You're not there like, why do I have to do that? Like, if that's what you're there to do, or that's your natural tendency, you will not have a good time, and you will not be successful.
Humility and competence. You have to show that first, right?
But if I see someone that maybe is unpolished, right? But man, they're eager and they want to learn, and I'm a sponge. I love that. I want to mentor that. And mentors will gravitate toward you because they see the passion you have. I love the fire service. You love the fire service. Our goal at this stage of our life is to bring people like us that love it and want to care for this special gift.
Yeah.
So I have a vested interest in acquiring and mentoring and fostering people that are going to take this beautiful, precious gift and keep it going and keep it professional and keep it to the high esteem that it has been, that we've enjoyed in our careers.
I love that.
Yeah. Let's see. I think when you're on probation, you're hired, right?
Right. Yes.
I think what she said in this last little discussion, humility, right? And hard work. I think those are the 2 things when you get hired that you need to have. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So when you're on probation,
there's a reason.
There's a reason that you have 2 of these and only 1. When I have seen candidates not be successful during probation, they really weren't prepared.
Right.
And sometimes they're not prepared mentally. They're not prepared for how much work actually is involved in the fire service. In one day, there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of things you have to assimilate and a lot of expectations, and it can be overwhelming, but you just have to take one thing at a time. If you thought about everything that you're expected to know in the fire service, our minds would explode.
Right.
Because our skills, knowledge, and abilities are so high.
School. Yeah,
so high.
Yeah.
But you take an elephant one bite at a time.
Oh, there you go.
Right? And so to start thinking about, okay, I'm hired, I want to be the best probie, I want to make sure that I'm following direction and that I'm doing that. So really be in the moment, listen to what your company officer is saying, do exactly what they ask and do it right now. Like if your captain asks you like, hey, can you go wash out the trash can? Okay, he means right now. He's not saying at your leisure whenever you get around to it. So being responsive to your captain is huge in the fire service, and it's a sign of respect. We see it as a sign of respect. When you listen to what I'm saying and you follow through with it immediately and it's done, and don't procrastinate, oh, I got to go make a phone call first, like that is not your priority. And I find a lot of candidates think they got hired and it's over. Like, I'm good, I've made it, and that's the opposite. You've literally just started the first day of hard for the next 30 years.
We have a saying, so we're watching you on probation, but that first year off probation, that's the year you actually need to work the hardest, because that's actually when, now that we know that you're off probation, and that's
who you really are.
That's who you really are.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things, right? But when you're on probation, I think the thing that I was probably most unprepared for on probation were just how nervous I was, because I mean, that means like, right, and are you doing things on your days off that are going to make you successful on your days on?
Yeah.
So right, like we work 48-hour shifts the night, like the day before, right? Am I getting the amount of sleep? Am I working out? Am I doing, am I stretching? Am I taking things seriously for my days on shift? It's like, it's okay. So one of the perks of being a firefighter is our schedule. Whether you work 24 hours or 48 hours, you do tend to have spans of days off. I work 10 days a month. I work 48 on, 96 hours off, which is really, really great. But that 4-day, like, are you just using it to go buck wild? Are you going snowboarding with your buddies and, getting hurt? Are you staying up all night watching movies because you don't have work in the morning? Like, whatever it is, right? I think I was unprepared. Like, I was okay with sleep deprivation. I worked on the ambulance for a long time, but the nerves and the emotional and the mental, like, stress of just performing and being a probie, that took a lot out of me. And I think I was a little unprepared for that. So I think it's taking care of yourself, especially on probation. And that continues now into my career. Like the night
finding how you decompress.
Yes, that's also very important, right? Like having that balance, having that support system, family, friends, whatever you need to do, because it is so stressful.
I agree with that. I do find, and I've been in the fire service a very long time, right? So I find that even now, the day before I go on shift, and I'm the battalion chief. I don't have to worry about much. You don't have to worry, but you know what I'm saying. I still don't sleep the whole night through, And so when you're at a fire station, you're new to the fire service, so you're going to be nervous and anxious and all these things. Well, that now lasts for 48 hours, 24 hours. So when you have that level of just running anxiety because not because you're scared, but because you want to do a good job.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for success.
Setting yourself up for success. That mentally wears on you until you've gained the long-term resiliency that, so it's interesting. When I would go at home, when I would be sleeping at home, I wouldn't hear anything. But when I slept at a fire station,
I hear everything.
I hear everything.
I am the lightest sleeper in the
I don't
world.
think I ever really go to sleep.
No, and that's the thing, right? Like and depending on what station you're at, right? It's going to be busy, tones are going to be going off. So you're just assume you're not getting any sleep. So if you're not setting yourself up for success, you're going to be groggy. So when that captain asks you, hey, go do this, and you're like, you have to respond. You have to do the task that's given to you, especially depending on the intensity of the situation. So.
It is preparing your mind and body for success for the shift until you get into that cycle and know what your normal is.
Exactly, because it is the beginning of the rest of your life. What do we call it? Academy life, probie life, the good life. But you only get to the good life if you prepare appropriately and you set yourself up for success. Otherwise, you're just going to be a wreck.
That's 100% true. That's 100% true. And when you're hired, just listen to what's going on around you. I learn a lot from other people's mistakes. Right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%. Yeah. So just observe people. It's like being at a party. You just sit there and see, oh, who's here and what's going on, and see how everything operates. And you'll get a feel of people that are going to be your resource for help, or people that may steer you in the wrong direction, or whatnot. So if you're smart, you'll gravitate toward people that are going to help you, and people are going to want to help you. But bring that humility, bring that hard work, and that responsiveness, and that is going to be the first steps of people wanting to help you and want to use it, because we all have a vested interest in having good people work for us.
Well, that's the funny thing. So I think about me. So I have 10 years on. I have at least 15 plus, possibly more years to go. So when I go and I have, especially as a new captain, when I have a new probie, or I sit on an oral board or anything like that, I'm looking at this person and I'm like, I'm going to end up working with you a lot longer than the people that trained me, because they're all retired, right? So it's cyclical. Like, that's what's so great about the fire service and the paramilitary and the hierarchy and everything, because it's like, okay, so now I'm the captain. Oh, I'm the captain now. So now I remember when I had that amazing captain who helped me with this, or,
took an interest in you.
Yeah, like gave me my first bid and, do everything. Like, I remember all of that. And so now I realize, okay, the new guy that gets hired today, I'm actually going to work with him more than I'm going to work with that captain, because that captain's retiring. So it's just one of those things where it's like, oh.
So now you've got to invest in him.
Right. So you're going to, Liz hit the nail on the head. You're going to find people that are invested with you as long as you have those basic characteristics of like humility, working hard, and things like that. And that's going to serve you well as a a probie and as a firefighter long term. And the great thing is it's so easy to do in this job because for 48 hours you got to be on, you got to serve the citizens, and you got to be there for your coworkers. And then you go off work for 4 days and you get to have that time with your friends and your family and for you. But it really is, I don't know, I can't describe how great this profession is.
It really is, I know.
It's the best.
Okay, next topic.
All right.
Professionalism and expectations.
I feel like we just kind of covered some of that.
We did cover some of it.
Expectations.
I will say though, professionalism.
Yes, that's a good topic.
Yeah, that's a big topic for me.
From a new captain and a battalion chief.
Right.
It's still a workplace.
It is still a workplace, and yes, it's great to have fun at work, but
it's a benefit of the fire service.
But if I do get frustrated, and I get I don't care for when people say it's a frat house.
Yeah.
I don't care for people making the fire service a frat house, because a frat house denotes a lack of maturity and a lack of caring for a workspace. So I've had just as much fun doing pranks at a fire station that were fun, and it wasn't an intentional, it wasn't exclusionary, right? And I think that we do have some challenges in the workforce, not just exclusive to the fire service, but of people not treating it as a professional workspace. I mean, as we know, you know, with COVID and remote working, just things have gone very casual.
Yeah.
They just really have. And in the fire service, that doesn't always work, because you go to someone's house and you're super professional and you're this and you're that, and then you go to the firehouse and that's all washed away.
Right.
Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And so we're having a lot of issues with professionalism with each other in the fire service. And we're having people file complaints against each other and having people lose their careers, getting demoted. And I think there's also that mixture of generations.
Oh yeah.
Not seeing eye to eye. And so really focus as a candidate on a professional environment at all times. There should never be a time where, like, oh, okay, I acted this way, now I can just act however. Like, that should never even be in your repertoire. Be who you are from the beginning. And if you are a professional person, then be a professional person. But I think part of the cancer in the fire service is a lack of emotional maturity and a petulance to stay a frat house.
Yeah, I agree. I think, so here's what I always tell people. You're only yes, you're a firefighter. Congratulations, you made it, you're living the good life. But you're only here because the city, the county, the government, the organization, the higher ups, right, admin, they took a chance on you and they said, here's a good person who's going to serve the citizens. And that's the only reason you're here. So when you forget that, the only reason you get to have a good time at work, you get to work in this amazing job, you get the benefits associated with it, right? I get 20 days off a month. You know, I have a pension, all the benefits and I love what I do. The only reason I get to do that is because this group, this like the city took a chance on me. And it is one of those things where it is a job. And I love this job. I love this career. It's a calling because not everyone can do it. It is difficult at times. It's emotional. It's physically challenging. But it is one of those things where I don't take it for granted. I'm very aware, and I definitely don't take for granted the fact that I am only here because, you know, some HR lady.
Because civic leaders chose you.
Yeah, they chose me, right? So it's like I get to have, it's almost like I got chosen to be a movie star, you know, because like, hey, I get all the perks that come with this, but I still have to do my job, and I still have to, you know, fit in those confines of this is my job qualifications, right?
Yeah, and
like,
it goes back to we're in this amazing profession, and we are standing on the shoulders of the firefighters before us.
I think that kills me is just people that like mess it up. I'm like, this is such a great job, and it's not. I don't know. It's like,
I feel like they read their own hype.
Yes, yeah.
They read their own PR and like, oh my God, they're right. I am so amazing. How did I not see this before? Did you know I'm amazing? Did you know I'm pretty cool?
I'm God's gift to the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing. I think it's really difficult to mess this up, but people still do it, and it's the people who take it for granted, and I just don't take it for granted.
And they're just immature. They really are immature.
Yeah.
So some of them,
But I think the fire service, like, diversity is what makes it this job the best, right? Diversity of the calls we
100%.
go on, right? It keeps me engaged. I'm never bored. I can
Yeah.
go on the same call 5 times, but each one is exactly different. I think the diversity of not only our job and the types of calls we go on, but the diversity of the workforce that we have is what makes it so great. And I think when we do anything that excludes someone from feeling welcome when they went through the same fire academy, the same interviews, and the city said, hey, this is a good person too, like we need to trust that process because it's worked pretty good in the history of the fire service. So trust that process, know that the person you're working with went through everything that you did and is deservedly there. So have a good time with the people that were chosen to be your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, 100%. Expectations as so. I would say when you're a probie or just new to the fire service, expectations are you, anytime you're going to go to a fire station, say you're not even hired yet, you're just interested in the fire service. If you're going to go talk to someone who's a firefighter, dress nice. Don't dress in like shorts and flip-flops, right? Professional. Because what your PR is how we're going to view you, right?
Oh, yeah.
You tell us how you want us to see you. So if it's with shaggy hair and unshaven or clothes are wrinkled.
We are not the Mark Zuckerberg type of corporation where you show up in jeans and a hoodie.
At all, yeah.
There's
not a strike team of bean bags at the firehouse, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. We still, right?
Yeah. So
don't have to be high and tight, but you should look.
So hygiene is huge, right?
Yes.
And do some research into the profession. Do some research, right? We expect you to be on time. What's the?
If you're not early or late, what is it? On time. Oh, God,
so
what is it?
I know, right?
I'm already messing it up.
Yeah. So I learned this when I was a SEAL. This was like 25 years ago,
Okay,
right?
so
Or actually even
this is
earlier.
drilled
than that.
into you.
Yeah. So early is on time.
Oh.
On time is late. Late is unacceptable.
There we go.
Right?
I feel schooled.
Yeah.
Right
now it's all good. But that matters, right? Because your reputation is what your coworkers are going to base their opinion and their trust on you, right? So if you're unreliable, you're late, you aren't clean, you aren't, upholding the values and ethics that everyone else has around you, then you are not bringing those characteristics to the fire service, and you're going to have a very difficult time.
Yeah.
Very difficult time. And you could be disciplined for it, depending on what you're doing or not doing. You're continually late. That doesn't work in the fire service because a call takes anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, right?
Right.
So now you show up 5 minutes before 8 o'clock, if that's shift change. Your partner just got a call, and now he doesn't get to go home till almost 10 o'clock because by the time he gets back and then takes his stuff off the deer, he does a Passover, and then finally gets home, it's 2 hours late. That's that's unprofessional, and that's unacceptable in the fire service. So really, if you go visit a fire station, ask questions, about professionalism and what are your expectations, and your uniform is neat and clean and looks sharp, and your boots are shined. Like all those speak to your character and attention to detail, because when you're in a burning building with someone, you need to pay the attention to those details, and your check boxes of always being consistent means when you're fighting for your life, there's the consistency that everyone can rely on, and now you have the respect and the trust of your peers, and that's 100% what we try to do every single day.
Well, and I think that's important. I think a lot of people don't realize, like, they don't want to be seen as uncool. They don't want to be seen as like, but there's, in the fire service, especially the situations, like, great point as far as like in a burning building. So if I'm in a burning building, when I'm the firefighter and I got my partner and we're on the hose line, I want to make sure that I trust my partner to have all of their protective equipment on, because if they don't, then I have to leave the building too. So now I'm not doing I can't do my job, right? I mean, the fun part of the job, right? I have to leave the building and some other crew has to come take over if I can't trust my partner to have done the same thing. So don't be that person. Be the person who takes their job seriously, is professional, holds themselves to high expectations, because if you don't, if you just kind of willy-nilly go about things, you're like, oh, I'm hired, okay, I'm gonna start slacking on things such as like my PPE or checking out my gear, something like that. If you start doing that, that's going to impede my job. Like, you can do that, like, right? This isn't an individual sport. This is an individual profession. Like, you have a task, but we have this thing, it's an OSHA mandate. 2 in, 2 out. So you always have a partner. So if you aren't taking care of what you're supposed to be doing, it does impact the rest of your crew, and it impacts.
And I think people take for granted
Mm-hmm.
our profession is high liability, high risk.
It is, yes.
A majority of the time, it's high liability, high risk, even in a medical aid.
Oh, definitely.
You
right.
know, and so that translates to we have to do it higher and tighter than everyone else.
We have a great time, but you also when you turn it on.
And I think that's why. I think that's why we have such a good time, and why we have because
we have a different perspective of
we
like
do.
intense things going on.
Yeah, but we all have the common goal of the details, of the integrity, of the trust.
Yes.
And so when you have a group of people that are absolutely on the same page, then that call becomes fun. Because everyone knows what they're bringing to the table, and it's trustworthy and it's good. Now we can actually, like, you know, like I'm dancing here, but now that we all are dancing here, let's add a twirl to it. You know what I'm saying?
Was literally, so while you were doing that, like the little dance move. So in my academy, fun story.
Yeah.
Oh man, we must have thrown opening the hydrant, throwing ladders. We're practicing all these skills so much. So Friday night, we would like to decompress. We'd all go out to dinner and just kind of talk about the week, and like before we went and did our own thing.
And that's
for the
how you start
weekend.
building your networking relationships.
100%. So one night we went to like, hey, let's just go dance. So we went to this dance club, and it was hilarious because someone's like, throw a ladder, and all of a sudden 3 guys lined up and they did every movement perfectly to throw, like in sync,
That's
to like
hilarious.
throw a 35-foot ladder, like open the hydrant, and everyone started doing the exact dance moves the same way. It is a dance, but they train it into you. But the cool thing was when you compare that to professionalism, we all were trained the same way. We know the skills, and if you do it that way and you hold yourself to that academy standard for the rest of your career, then no one's going to second guess that you can do the job. No one's going to.
100%.
You're going to show up and they're like, "Awesome, I got Corey on the rig today. Oh, great, this
100%.
is good." You know, and
It's gonna be
so
a good
that's
day.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so we have a conclusion, but this is our last topic.
Okay.
So we're getting there. We're getting there. We have some questions in this area. What's the main thing? Day in the life. So this is the part. Actually, I should go before I get into questions. This is the part we just kind of run through what a day in the fire service is. So imagine yourself as a firefighter. We're going to say, okay, you come on shift at 7 a.m. and we're going to walk you through a day just so you understand what the fire service is and what a day is for a fire crew.
And we're going to talk about it, but I highly recommend if you, like Liz said earlier, every department has their own personality. If you have an interest in a fire department, big, small, there are differences in big departments and small departments, both professionally, socially, everything like that.
Operationally?
Yes, very much so, right? Like I run 4-0 staffing, but all the agencies around San Jose are 3-0 staffing. That means there's only 3 people in a fire engine as opposed to 4 that I run. So things are very different. You get a feel for the department by doing a ride-along. So we're about to talk about the day in a life, but if you want to see it yourself, research some departments and make the contact. You can either, like a lot of them, departments will have websites or stopping by fire stations. Hey, can I sign up and do a ride along? I highly encourage that to get the feel for a department.
100%.
So we're going to talk about it, but please take advantage of that opportunity.
I encourage ride-alongs in my city. And I think it's a great way to know if it's something you like to do. And I haven't really had anyone say like, oh man, that was not for me. Everyone's like, I loved it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I will say I actually never did a ride-along. And I wish I had. I mean, but I will say the only reason that I feel like I knew the vibe of San Jose was because I worked on an ambulance for 4 years in San Jose.
The group,
so I knew the guys, right? Like I knew what type of vibe they had. And because I worked in Santa Clara County on the ambulance, I ran with the other fire departments too. So I knew you get a vibe. Like I worked with them, right? They would ride in on, critical calls. But yeah, ride-alongs, 100%. I encourage and support those.
Yeah. So I'm just going to run through. So I'll take till lunch,
it.
and then you take lunch and beyond.
Okay.
Okay.
You got
4 hours.
You got the busy part of the day.
So typically when you start your shift, you come on. I always recommend an hour before your shift. It gives you time to have your partner know that you're there. If you get a call, then there's still time for him to come back. But 9 times out of 10, you can have a cup of coffee and you can have a conversation about how the shift went and if there's anything that needs to be done, anything that needs to be cleaned, sharpened, whatever. So start getting your gear ready. Start putting it by the engine. You do the pass down. So as you're having coffee and everyone's talking and doing their pass downs, Next, okay, cool. Now it's just about 8 o'clock. I'm putting my gear on the fire engine. I'm ready to respond. And everybody's a little different. Sometimes they'll do their morning meetings before they check out their equipment, or sometimes they do it after. It really just depends on the company officer. And the expectation is that when you come onto your shift, you run every piece of equipment on your fire engine, regardless if the crew before them did it, because you have to make sure you yourself have to personally verify that every piece of equipment on that fire engine works. And that's the firefighter's responsibility. The engineer will make sure the pump's okay, and the captain will check his radios and put his gear and whatnot. So everyone has their lane, like we talked about at the beginning. Once you've run all the equipment, chainsaw, power units, whatever it is, then you have your morning meeting, and the captain will sit there and talk about what the day looks like. Maybe you have a PR event. You got to go to a school and teach kids about the fire service, or maybe you got to, go to some political event that your city community is having. So it just depends on outlines a day. Our day typically is 8 to 5. That's what we work in business hours. So anything that we do related to the public, business inspections, whatever, is going to be in that 8 to 5. So as the day's crafting, okay, and then we typically get an hour to work out in our department. We get an hour to PT. Sometimes that's done at the station if there's a gym there, or sometimes we actually physically go to a gym. So there's that reflex time, and sometimes that happens in the afternoon, happens in the morning, just depends on the day. So as we craft our day up until that lunchtime, okay, we went to the gym, we came back, we checked our equipment, we have our day. The captain wants to do some training. Okay, cool. So we're going to do some training before lunch and then roll into lunch. So we're going to go to the back of Albertsons or, whatever grocery store there is, and we're going to throw ladders. Okay, cool. Your job is to show your proficiency and to get better, and where you're throwing a ladder, it's mindless. You're not consciously thinking of it because you've done it so many times. They're just keeping the joints greased. That's what I call it, calling the joints greased. And then you do that for like an hour, hour and a half, and maybe another engine joins you, maybe they don't, and then you roll into lunch. And sometimes people bring in their own lunch, sometimes they do it as a crew together. Every fire department is different, every crew is different. Sometimes they have, you put $20 a week and you have this meal fund, or everyone has their little special diet and they want their rice cakes with peanut butter and they have their protein shake here, and you know what I'm talking about. And everyone does their own thing. So it just depends on what your crew does, and that takes you into lunch, and you get about an hour lunch.
Yeah, so I mean, very similar, like she was saying, like 8 to 5 tends to be where we do a lot of the business stuff. We do train, there's online training as well as physical training. This being said, 911 calls are our number one priority. It scuds everything. It's our number one priority. That is what we're hired for, is to respond to emergencies.
And every plan gets scudded by a call.
100%, right? So you could have
you go to the gym, you walk in, and you barely make it in, you get a call.
We're going to do this in school inspection today. We're going to go do this, and then it's like it's suddenly
all scudded.
It's 8 p.m. and I'm like, we didn't even eat, So it's just it happens. But your job is to be a professional, an emergency responder. So everything is definitely, it comes down to that. But yeah, usually after lunch, a lot of times we'll hit the computer. If there's online training, your captain will let you know, hey, by the way, guys, there's some online training we got to do. A lot of times people will use that time to, if there was something in the morning checkout that they're like, oh man, you know what, I noticed that axe was kind of rusty, maybe I'll go do that. A lot of times our guys will do the workout in the afternoon. So I think statistically it's like we get less calls between 2 and 5 in the afternoon. So that's usually a time, like we usually will have some downtime, or we'll go to schools, do some pub ed events. And then after 5 p.m., so basically we'll have dinner and we'll sit down, and that might be a time where, depending on the organization, you can take off your button-up shirt and just have your department t-shirt on. You have dinner together, and then it's very much what we call family time. So we're responding to 911 calls all the time, but it's a time for us to also talk. We'll do whiteboard training sessions after dinner. It's like, oh hey, let's talk about that fire we went on last tour. Oh hey, your B shift went on this fire. Let's draw it out really fast and see what we would do differently. So there's little things that the job isn't just 911 calls. It's responding to the needs of the community as well as the 911 calls. So it's like you're going to stay up on your training. You're going to build relationships with the crews. You're going to be cooking for each other, and then obviously, so I have some guys who just don't sleep well, so they'll just stay up all night. you know, doing whatever it is. And but we respond to calls throughout the night. You know, I love my sleep, so I will try to go to sleep, get as much sleep as I can, you know, in between getting the calls. But my department, we actually have an all-call wake-up at 6:45. Every station in the entire department goes off.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I found that was unique. I didn't know that other departments didn't have that.
I never heard of this.
6:45 every morning, every station says, I know, right? But so we get woken up, and that's kind of like, oh, cool, we'll do a morning workout as a group, you know, something like that. Everyone's very different, but I think that the big takeaway from during the day is I think those first few hours are the most important, because that's when you're setting yourself up for success. Again, you're checking your gear, you're getting turnover, you're checking out your rig, you're kind of prepping for the day. And then after that, everything, the rules are kind of off. You try to do some training here and there. The biggest thing of the day for us is like, what are we eating? You know, when are we, who's cooking, you know, type of thing. And that's what makes the job fun. Like you do, I had a captain who said, give me 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day of training, responding to emails, doing administrative stuff. That's it. The rest of it's going to be responding to 911 calls, working out, taking care of ourselves, and basically as coworkers just responding to the needs of the community. You know, we might be grocery shopping and an old lady be like, "Oh, I locked my keys in my car," you know, or
happens all the time.
Yeah, like whatever it is, right? So I mean, that's basically the day in life, and that's what makes it.
And then dinner time, like nighttime, right?
Yeah.
So going to bed, right?
Yeah, so depending on department, station, facilities, there's always, well, not always. So there's men's and women's usually. There are some dorms that are communal. So I would say.
Like at one of my stations, it's communal.
I would say almost a little less than half at San Jose are communal. So basically, captains a lot of times will get their own room, but a lot of firefighters, so for everyone that's not a captain, that's usually like huge bunk rooms, and it can
it's one
fit,
big room and it has beds.
like dividers. I mean, in San Jose we have dividers up, right? But it's not like there's
no privacy.
No, it's like cubicles. So, but it's still wide open type of thing.
So you can hear and smell everything.
You can. So for, you know, those people that have, you know, BiPAP, CPAP machines, or they
Darth Vader.
snore.
Yes.
You can be prepared for that, right? So besides learning how to cook, I mean, it is one of those things where you got to learn your sleep habits. And I am a light sleeper, and I know I'm a light sleeper.
Fans? Do you get
fans help,
People will turn on fans to like number 4.
Oh, yeah.
So you're like in a windstorm because someone's CPAP is, you know,
or
doing.
Or if you're a heavy sleeper, you set 5 alarms. Be courteous, because if you don't get up on your first alarm, you just woke up everyone in the dorm.
100%. And he's asleep and everyone else is awake.
But also talk to your crew. Like, hey, by the way, I'm a heavy sleeper, so if you get a call, kick my bed, you know, or something
Help
like
me
that.
out.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely it's camaraderie.
There's a whole science of fire service sleep.
Yeah. No, there's. I mean, knock on wood, I've never slept through a call, but I definitely have people. It's like we have like.
I remember one night I couldn't sleep because my captain was on the other side of the cubicle. It was a communal, and he had sleep apnea but did not have a CPAP.
Oh, so then you're like, is he breathing?
I literally could not sleep because I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna die. Oh my God, and I was the medic. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna die. You know, it was terrible.
We had a guy that was such a heavy sleeper that they actually put one of those like ring doorbell things where like there's like a button that they put it actually in the engine, and they'd hit it and it would go to his bunk and it would wake him up because he was such a heavy sleeper. It's the best.
That's funny.
But those are the things that you develop in the fire service, and you're going to like. But sleep habits are important. Know yourself. Once again, know thyself. So,
yes,
yeah,
100%.
That's what I recommend.
So let's knock out these questions.
Okay.
What's the main thing that helped you prepare for mentally tough situations?
Ooh.
I think it goes back, in my opinion, to having that strong sense of self. I know my weaknesses. I know my strengths. And so I feel confident in what I do know. And not to say that I'm always just so confident, but you have to have a level of confidence in your capabilities.
Yes.
If you went through Fire Academy, you went through EMT, like be proud of that and have some confidence in your ability that you succeed on those things. So don't let someone shake your confidence in the mean girl way, right?
Yeah, no, and I'd say in the fire scenarios, in the suppression scenarios, like mentally tough situation, like that's more physical, and I feel like the mental, they just kind of trained it into me what my job is. So my first thought when I read this question was the EMS calls, like the tough calls of like, you know,
babies
pediatric
like
calls, you know, pronouncing someone dead. So for that, I think this is going to sound slightly callous, but they teach you something where it's not my emergency.
That's and you have to.
You have to have some type of a barrier,
something to help you. Otherwise, we would be crying every call.
This job isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's the people that can't build up that mental boundary, that barrier where it's like, this isn't I am a trained paramedic. I'm a trained firefighter. If if I break down on this call, or if I can't seem to handle, or if it starts mentally eating away at me, I really need to evaluate myself, because this isn't my emergency. This is my job. I am trained to come here and to do everything I can within my training that I put a lot of time and effort into, but I do need to have that.
There has to be a line.
There has to be a line. Yeah, 100%.
I agree with that. You know, you can still provide empathy. You can still,
100%.
you know, be very caring.
Right.
But in the capacity of like, I do feel bad. You're going through this terrible thing, and I'm doing everything in my power to make it better in any capacity I can. But I do find, and I perceive that a lot of our fire service family owns those losses sometimes too much.
Yes. We call it rocks in a backpack. They put too many rocks in their backpack.
Yeah, and they keep the rock, and it's like, well, we all have the ideal that we want to serve, and we all have the ideal that we're going to save all these lives, but that's not the reality.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, I have been on calls where I did everything right as a paramedic, and the person still passed. But then things didn't go so well, and they lived.
Yeah.
So I kind of have this personal philosophy. Sometimes it's not up to me.
All you can do is, right, what's that? You rise to the occasion, but you fall to the level of your training.
Yeah.
All you can do is train as much as you possibly can and be competent in your job. So for when that situation, you know, comes up. But one thing, not to bag on the cops, because I know you guys are here for a fire.
I feel like we're going to bag on the cops.
We're not going to bag on the cops, but it's something. You guys are already sitting here. You're wondering about the fire service. But one thing that I think is awesome about the fire service. So I have been on some pretty gnarly calls, right? You know, tough calls where it's like police are also there, and I'm sitting there at the back of the rig. I'm cleaning up my EMS gear, you know, for whatever it was, you know, got, you know, dirty or whatever. So I'm sitting there and I'm there with my crew, and then I get in my rig and I have 3 people that just went through the same experience with me. Maybe they didn't have the same pressure because I was the paramedic, but also I work with a lot of, like, my former captain was a paramedic. Like, there's I have a support system. I have 3 other people there that just went through what I went through. And if I am feeling like a little mentally or emotionally drained from that, I have someone, like other people that were literally there going through the same thing. Yeah. And then I turn around and I see, I have this one scene in particular, pretty grisly call, and I turn around and there's like a newer cop, because I'd never seen her before. And I see her kind of like, oh, she's kind of shaky a little bit, but she goes and she sits in her squad car by herself. And I'm just like, I'm suddenly so grateful for my crew. Like, the cops, right, they're going to go back, they sit in their car and they go, and they don't have anyone to talk to, but it's like, if we see something, I know that I can call my captain or my engineer or like a former paramedic that was possibly on scene.
And there's usually a conversation that occurs after the call. We head back and we're like,
and then,
so how about them Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
There's usually an icebreaker.
Sorry if you're a Dodgers fan. But no, it is one of those things where it's like, I think the mental tough situations, I'm grateful for the camaraderie that we have. So besides having it personally and being able to create that boundary, I think that we are very lucky in the fire service because we have immediate therapists at our disposal. And also professional therapy.
I think that's fair. And, you know, in my mind, I see mental toughness in 2 capacities. And I was going down the capacity of, like, how it affects you as an employee, not how it affects you as a lifesaver, right? But the 2 worlds mesh.
Oh, they do.
A lot. And that's when we start having those resiliency conversations, like, are you mentally resilient? And it comes down to having that faith. And I have found that people don't have good support systems at home, don't have that, their resiliency falters a bit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It really, if something's bad going on, or a relationship or death or something like that, then they own it, especially depending how close they were in that relationship, and then it translates, oh, I failed here too, or this happened.
Even in the hiring process, like you have a psych exam, at least for San Jose you do, like the final like hiring step. And during that, you have to take, like, you fill all these questions, you know, talking about like your psychological health. And one of them is like anger management and stress management. And if you don't have a good means of coping with that, including coping mechanisms, and support system, right? Whether it be family, friends, whatever it is, like
a priest, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, and so the reason why I mention it is because I wish I had this discussion when I first joined the fire service, but I went through the anger and I went through the this and the that, and now I'm in this like Zen kind of like, oh, I see it all now, you know? But I wish someone had told me that. So I think it's important to have these types of discussions as people come in the fire service, because we want you. It's great service. I mean, this is phenomenal, but nothing's perfect.
No.
The fire service is perfect for me, but nothing's perfect. So we want to prepare you so you don't go through the things that maybe we were challenged with.
And if you do come across something, then know a way to handle it. Have people that you can go and talk to about it that you trust, because that's also what helped me, like, where I've gone through the different phases as well, where it's like, oh, this isn't living up to my expectations. Why isn't this perfect? And it is having those mentors, those friends, those family members, those coworkers that you can go and talk to. So.
Okay, so there's, what's it like being on an ambulance?
I love being on the ambulance.
Really?
I did.
Oh my God.
So you know what?
We can't be friends anymore.
Listen, it was a
God.
mini fire service, because instead of 4 people on a rig, it was just me and one other person. So it was one.
Clearly, you know she's not right in the head.
It was
Clearly.
good training. No, it was good training. Plus, also as a paramedic, like, we do fire people if you are not a competent paramedic. So
no, we do that a lot too.
Yeah. So I will say, being on the ambulance, it's okay. No, hear me out. Okay.
And I was on an ambulance too. I worked as a paramedic for an ambulance.
So I was very lucky. I had great partners as an EMT and as a paramedic on the ambulance. I was very, very blessed. I had great partners. I have heard horror stories, and so I am aware of my
blessedness.
Yes, my good karma, good dharma, whatever you want to call it. But I will say, so when I was on as a paramedic on the ambulance for three, almost 4 years when I got picked up with San Jose. So because the fire service is so much EMS, I am so confident in my abilities to be a paramedic. So as nervous as I was on probation.
You didn't worry about that.
Oh my God, I was so nervous. I was like bubble guts every day, like, we're gonna get a fire and I'm gonna mess up. Right, just going through the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But every time it was an EMS call, it was like,
yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
Like, I might be the new guy as far as fire suppression and running into burning buildings and, you know, doing, and even like the mechanical aptitude stuff, right? I wasn't, I'm like, ooh, what's a 2-stroke engine? Like when I got to the fire academy. So I had to learn all those things. That was all very new for me, but
you didn't have to worry about the paramedicine.
I loved being on the ambulance because it was the perfect job introduction for what a majority of what the fire service is. We're still an emergency responders, paramedics and EMTs. You don't have to do as long as I did. You know, but I know guys that did longer. It is just one of those things where for me, because every time we got an EMS call after that, I was so grateful because I'm like, oh man, I got this.
Yeah.
Like I am a good paramedic and I know I can do that. So for me, it was
empowering.
Yeah, and it brought some relief to
the things you were weaker on.
Yeah. And like the nerves that happen during probation. Oh man, especially when you get to like that house where you're like, oh, that captain has a nickname.
Oh,
like, you know, it's like they're going to be stressed, you know. So, and it is one of those things where it was just like, so being on an ambulance for me, I just feel like looking back, one, I had a great time.
Yeah.
But two, it single-handedly prepared me, like gave me the confidence probably to get through the majority of it.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, ambulance is great. I just say that. Yeah. I worked on ambulance. It was okay. It just was, I wanted to get on a fire engine. The ambulance was okay, but I wanted to be in a fire engine. So.
I knew my time would come.
Yeah.
I knew my time would come. So
but you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you made lemonade of your lemons.
I did.
And I love that.
I love lemonade.
Okay, so conclusion. I'm just going to give a little piece and then. Okay, so in conclusion, after like I think a week we've been here so far.
I mean,
at
we
least a
definitely
week.
went over
at
our time.
least a week.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. In ADHD time, it might as well have been a year.
Both of us talked to a wall.
100%. But I just want to say we appreciate you guys, the people that stuck around. Come visit us, but you can do it 100%. It's all within you. Becoming a firefighter, Cal-JAC, FCTC, these are all your programs to use to help you be where you need to be a firefighter. We want empathetic, caring, willing to serve, people that just are good people that want to help other people. That is the foundation of the fire service, and it is an amazing career. I have been in it since I was 17 and a half years old. I'm 49 now, and I love it today as much as I did before, and I will sell it to anyone. And just decide if you're a good fit for it, and anything you want, you can achieve. Anything you want. If you're unsuccessful, it's because you likely didn't prepare yourself or didn't stick with it. So it's very attainable. It's an incredible career, and I hope you guys are successful. You can reach out to Becoming a Firefighter, the FCTC, if you need to get in contact with us. But for me, I'm willing to help anybody. So I welcome you all in the fire service, and let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so basically to follow up with Liz, little bit different. I was not 17, I was 31 when I became a firefighter, so a little bit older, did a career change.
It's like 2 years ago, right?
Totally, thanks. So a little bit older, 100%, I still consider it my long and winding road to the fire service has all helped me in the fire service. So for those of you out there who are maybe a little bit older, I know for some people you're thinking 31 was young, but it was still scary to change careers, to consider doing something that I just never saw myself doing, and I didn't have the hubris of youth to not talk myself out of it. Don't just discard it. It's an amazing career. If you don't do full 30 years, that doesn't mean you're not going to be a benefit to the community, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have the most amazing
fulfilling life.
Second career, yeah.
It's fulfilling.
It is.
I feel fulfilled.
Like I can't imagine, even like those days where I'm tired and I'm beat down and I'm like, man, maybe like my lowest days of like whatever. Like there's nothing else. When I really sit down and think about it, there's no other job that I think I can do because nothing is going to fulfill me the way it does. I get that hands-on every time I go on a call. My day gets better, which I know is horrible to say. It's kind of selfish that someone's bad day is my good day, but I get so much fulfillment from this profession. I love doing it, and I mean the pay, the benefits, the people I work with are just icing on top of the cake. And it is one of those things where I hope that those of you out there who are considering career change, you do that ride along and you do seriously consider this and try to make it work for you, because it doesn't matter if you can't do a full 30 years. It's absolutely...
It could be the 10, 20 years of the best time of your life.
Yeah, and the difference you can make in someone else's life.
And to be part of that legacy, to be part of something so great and phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people get to be in this club, and it's incredible.
It is. It's we're elite, little elite club. So for everyone out there, this is the end of our program. So we hope you guys got something from it. Hopefully one of these questions was yours and you were able to be like, thank you for answering that. If there's anything we didn't answer for you guys, please send it in. We're going to be available to answer your questions. We'll find the people that need, that can answer your question. If we can't answer it, we're going to find someone who will. But the big thing for us is if you want to know more about the fire service, we hope that you come out to the next expo. It is going to be on April 5th, Saturday in Sacramento, and there are going to be over 20 different fire departments, all with representatives who would love to sit down and chat with you about why you should consider their fire department, what makes them special and different from the department next door to them. It's a great day. You're going to be able to get hands-on that CPAT equipment that we were talking about, the physical test. You're going to be able to get information on the written FCTC test. And you're going to be able to meet us, the Women's Commission.
Right, that alone. I mean, if you literally did nothing else, that would be worth it.
We will be there. This session is just kind of one of the sessions we do, but maybe with a few other different ranking.
And bring your kids. There's little practice, little CPATs that they can do.
Exactly.
And every adult that passes CPAT gets a free face painting done by me and Corey.
I'm so sorry ahead of time. if you get me, she might have some skill, but I am less skilled.
And everything I said was not true. Except for the kids. The kids can bring the kids, and there's lunch served.
Oh, that's right.
There's lunch served.
Yeah.
Like we're doing everything we can. We want to attract community good people, so we're doing everything we can.
Yeah.
And we hope that you join us and let us know who you are. We want to know you.
Yeah. So that expo's in Northern California. We do hold one in Southern California, but if you want to know when that expo is going to be and any other information, make sure that you follow us on all the social media platforms. Becoming a firefighter is a great resource tool. Not only do they have lots of videos and they do highlights, they do recruitment in the spotlight where they highlight different fire departments
that
up and
are
down the state. Yeah. You're going to get all the information about when the expos are, tips and advice from following these social media platforms. So please do so. And we really just thank you for taking time out of your day to send us these questions. Those great questions, guys. And if you need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out.